The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on.
He missed the complete. That is crazy
As I
stuff.
said, Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Drivers have a phrase that is often thrown around: "This track demands respect." It is used time and again from many legendary locations around the world, but when you come to the Nürburgring, it is as though that phrase is simply not enough to describe the difficulty and the danger involved in attempting even a single lap. No, the ring does not demand respect, it demands a sacrifice. Few will make it to the checkered flag, and even achieving that will leave a sense of accomplishment and pride for the driver. There is an atmosphere of dread and excitement here today for what is possibly the most trying race of the season. It is with great anticipation that we get ready to watch the Volt Vapes 2.4 Hours of Nürburgring, Round 4 of the Pacific Majors, and you're watching it live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth tonight are Samuel Ryman and our GT3 expert Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, it's as though the importance and the legend of this circuit can't be overstated. For the race fans who have not heard of this place before, introduce us to this behemoth of a racetrack.
It's big, it's fast, it's narrow, it's windy, it's scenic, it's dangerous, it's awesome. It is the Nürburgring, Joe. It's 15.77 miles long, 170 turns. We're going to be racing here for 2 hours and 24 minutes today. And I know you asked this of me, but honestly, I can't really put this place into words. I really think the best way to show our fans what this track is really made of, those who don't know, is with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC BMW, but we're going to do things a little different. The ring is so long, we're just going to look at a few important sections, so here we go. Coming down to the first corner, this is going to be an excellent place to set up a pass into the Yokohama S. It gets very tight at the apex though, so beware. First lap is going to be extremely congested through this chicane. But let's fast forward a bit to where we enter the Nordschleife. It's going to be a bit like a street course around this transition corner. The exit has that wall right there, so make sure you don't get too greedy and smack into it. Now let's go a little farther ahead into an important exit, Hoekijken. You've got a long bit of acceleration here, so try to get yourself a good run to avoid being stuck too wide in one of the scariest turns in racing, Wilbacher Hul. The car is going to get light over the crest, then you've got to spot your turn in it and nail it, or else it's going to be race over in a hurry at Flugplatz. Then, not much up the road, we come into Schwedenkreuz. The blind crest is going to make it very hard to get the car planted, and the lack of runoff makes this high-speed eye of the needle extra scary. Then we brake hard for Ehrenberg. Once again, the exit here is much more important than the entry because of the thin, high-speed section afterwards. Skip ahead, and we come into Adenauer Forst, where plenty of drivers have jacked up their repair bill. You'll spend most of this technical section getting the car slowed as each corner gets tighter. Beware the tall curbs so that they don't unsettle the car. From there, let's go to the downhill section for Miss Hit Miss. This corner has 3 apexes and you do just as the name tells you. Then it's a short burst and you've got a curved downhill braking zone into Verseifen. This is where it really feels old school. It's basically a hairpin with no runoff on the outside. Now let's switch gears and head back uphill with the ever-critical Bergwerk. Do not early apex this guy because your foot isn't leaving the gas for a long time and you'll be charging uphill. Everything you give up on the exit is going to hurt your lap time like crazy. Fast forward to the top of the climb and we get the car woed up where the track used to split off for the Steilstrecke. This right-hander feels like it goes on much longer than you'd expect, but thankfully it's not a very long straight afterwards. So it's not as important to get that second apex perfect. What is important is the infamous carousel. Make sure not to get into the banking too hot, because if it spits the car out, you're likely meeting the Armco. Make sure the wheels are planted once the bumps finish, and then accelerate away from this iconic corner. From there, let's jump to the last right-hander of Wipperman. The rise after the apex is going to suck the car to the left, so experienced ringmeisters won't let the car drift too far to the outside. It's easy to get too confident through there. After that, we head over to Flansgarden, another spot where the car can catch some air. Lift before the dip, try to just clip the first apex, and get the car to turn in for the second. Be careful over those next 2 crests though, because the car will lose traction. Eventually, you'll get to the most important corner of the entire track, and that's Galgenkopf. Meaning Gallows Head, it's fitting since it will hang you if you get a bad exit around this long, sweeping turn. That's because it dumps you onto the Dürrenhof Strait. And with this being over 2 kilometers long, you better believe you need every ounce of speed you can get. A long wait later, you hit Tiergarten and slow the car as you enter Hohenrang. It takes a lot of guts to maximize the entry into this series of S's that slow you before the end of the lap. But with that, we've made our way around the circuit. As always with the Nürburgring, outright pace isn't going to be nearly as important as keeping the car whole. Expect the race to go to the most consistent and not the fastest. And at over 3.5 minutes, that was just some of the track. Gives you an idea just how long this lap is. But we are in early days of this championship, and we have 3 rounds gone. As we said, this is round 4, so let's start with the Drivers' Championship and see where everybody stands on that one. Up at the top, Jason Fleischle looking good with 561 points. Troy Schultz has moved up into second, though he is only 27 points back from our leader, Williams, last season's champion, overall champion in fact. He has moved down to third. Let's see if he can maybe work his way back up. He's only 43 points back from Jason. Then Mark Jabinski also has moved up to 50 points back, and Lionel Kalisto 54 points back. So fairly tight up at the top of the Drivers' Championship. However, let's go to the Governor's Cup. And Sean, what are we looking at over there?
Let's do it. Let's talk about the Governor's Cup and Texas. Great state of Texas, all by itself there. 2,620 points. Northwest trailing real close, only 14 points behind. They're going to be a threat all season. And the West sitting there in third, 189 points back, got some work to do. California, they are in fourth, 231 points back. They certainly have some work to do. Who knows, maybe a little luck for those boys here at the Nürburgring today.
Meanwhile, we also have the Teams Championship. Drivers can form up into teams in this series for this season. And Sam, what are we looking at for that?
Well, we're looking at a pretty close battle up top. We're only 4 races into, I mean, it's really early in the season here right now. But yet only 8 points separate the top 2 teams, Alliance Racing ahead of TNT Racing. And you can see they already have a huge gap over Mountain West Motorsports and Dog Bear Blue. They have likewise a big gap over the 5th place team in the points, Riding Shotgun Motorsports. Camo Hat Mafia, Dog Bear Red, Thunder Road, Lamberti Racing, there we go, and NKH Racing round out the top 10.
Well, that is the championship, and thanks, Sam, for running that down. I think Joe has caught up we got a quick interview here. Going to bring Donovan in from Volt Vapes.
Absolutely. We've got Donovan in here, and let's see if we can get him mic'd up. Donovan, can you hear us? Looks like Donovan having a little bit of trouble with his mic for now. We'll see if we can talk to him in a little bit. He is the owner of Volt Vapes, the official sponsor of this series for this season. We'd love to get to talk to him about what it's like to get to sponsor the prestigious Pacific Majors and what it has developed into recently. But in the meantime, let's go over some of the stories of the race. Now, there's a few passing zones, although passing is known. Oh, there we go. We got Donovan now. All right, Donovan, welcome to the booth. And first of all, thank you for sponsoring this series. It's awfully nice of you to be putting the money towards making this thing happen. What inspired you to get involved with the Pacific Majors? May have lost Donovan again. All right, we'll try and get caught up with Donovan here. I think he might be listening to us through the broadcast, which has a bit of a delay. So we'll try and make sure that he turns his earpiece on for us in the booth here in a second. In the meantime, let's go back to the stories that we were talking about. And Sean, we know that passing is extremely difficult around most of this tracks, but what are the places that you're looking at you think guys might try to make an attempt?
Well, actually, I think on the GT course, you're going to see a couple of really good opportunities that, I'm sorry, on the GP course, the Grand Prix course, Yokohama S right there at the end of the front straight, just past the start-finish line. You're going to have a good passing opportunity there. Now, the start of this race is going to be interesting. They'll be stacked up single file going in there. You'll see cars braking all over the place, so that will be quite hairy at the beginning. But, Bilstein Curve and Arenberg worked the very last straight into the end of the circuit there. Duttenerhof. That a lot of drafting there. You'll see the power of the McLaren, possibly the Porsche. Now that we don't have a lot of the Porsches in the race, I know after this last build it maybe hurt those cars just a little bit. So, but look for the horsepower of the McLaren to really open up down that last section of the track, and everybody file in behind and try and make their way around. It'll be fun to watch. There'll be a lot of drafting on that backside there.
Now, usually we talk about, specific danger zones, places that are difficult for drivers around circuits that viewers should watch out for, but there's a phrase that comes to mind, Sam: who will survive and what will be left of him? I don't think there's any one particular place that we need to watch out for. I think the whole track is a danger zone.
Yeah, you're seeing a danger zone right here on screen. Nick Hunt, here he is. He's going through a danger zone, goes through the right turn here, camera pans to the left. Here's another danger zone. As he goes up the hill into this left corner, he'll come out, and there's another danger zone, and you can see it. I mean, not only are these high-speed straights and very twisty, but there's walls all over this racetrack. I mean, there's a reason Formula One stopped racing here even as far back as the 1970s. Granted, that reason was Niki Lauda's crash and the result of staffing, but it is a dangerous little racetrack. Now, these drivers will have one free repair throughout the race. That being said, though, you don't want to get involved in too big of an incident, because if you take a tow to the pits, heck, you might want to put dinner on and eat it, and then you can come back to your computer and your car should be in pit road.
Yeah, really, it's, usually for those not familiar with iRacing, when you take a tow, it's an automatic thing. It gives you a timer, and it tends to be longer than if you try to drive the car back unless the car is seriously injured. And around here, I believe there was talk of maybe 12 to 14 minute long tow times depending on where you escape out of the car. So guys obviously will want to try and drive back if they can, but even that is going to be dangerous, because if you have cars coming up on you quick, and especially in some of these blind sections, as you can see Seth Alberts turning onto the main course, or I think he was, excuse me, no, I guess he wasn't. That was another driver. So yes, drivers will want to get out of the way and take a tow if it's absolutely necessary, but you don't want to do that if you can drive the car back to the pits, if possible. Well, we've got, let's see, about a minute and a half, so real quick, let's talk to the driver, or to our fans, a little bit about strategy. How long are we looking on fuel, Sean?
I know the McLaren is probably going to be good for about 55 minutes, somewhere in that 55 to 58 minute window, maybe a little bit longer. The other classes are going to be, give or take a few. I think you'll see anybody pit. I'm going to give you a window of about anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour and 5 minutes. Okay, but tires are going to be kind of tricky here. I think with the elevation changes, the hard braking, you're really going to be screaming for those anyway. So you may not make it all the way to fuel. We're going to need 2 stops to get this done, at least, if you keep the car clean. So that's my guess on it right now, Joe.
I believe when we did the math, it's about 7 laps on those 55 minutes that they can go on a fuel tank, which I believe most guys are going to be doing at least on the first stint, I'm assuming, and then leave themselves open on the next part. We've got about 20 seconds left, so we're going to be reading the grid soon. They've been qualifying for quite a while. Usually on these road courses, they only have a little while to qualify. Here they gave them, what was it, something like 6 hours to try and get a lap in?
6-hour qualifying session leading up to this race. Yes, sir.
Which they needed, I think, is safe to say. Oh, and actually, no, we do have time. I think we've got, it looks like 12 minutes left for guys to complete their laps. So I think we can actually talk to Donovan Johns here, because we thought we wouldn't have time with the qualifying ending, so let's pull him in anyways and have a quick chat. Can you hear us here, Donovan?
Yes, sure thing. I got you.
All right, we're good this time. First of all, thank you for sponsoring the series, and tell us how you got involved with the Pacific Majors.
Oh man, no, it's my pleasure. These guys were a great group. I'm glad I hooked up with them. Got about 2 years ago. I met up with Mike Oliet and the guys for the Daytona 500, and had a blast with them. One of the best group of guys through the Northwest Club. Phenomenal racing, and as luck would have it, they were looking for a promotional sponsor to get on board to help get both the pro and the amateur splits up and running on broadcast. So, jumped at the opportunity. I own a small business here in the Northwest, so it seemed like a great way to advertise with a great group of racers. The guys on the pro side are phenomenal to work with, and us amateurs have a hoot and a holler when we're racing.
Yeah, I'd love to. Actually, I really need to go and watch those. It's just I'm so tired after these things. I usually don't have a chance to hop over and watch how those other ones went. But with you being the official sponsor, tell us a little bit about Volt Vapes, though. What are you guys all about?
Sure, we actually started off making e-liquid back in 2010, and kind of grew from there, got into the retail side of the house, and we've got a couple locations out here in Boise, Idaho, and we're expanding and we're wholesaling out, and so it's a phenomenal industry. It's a one I'm proud to be a part of, and I love it. So the more I can do this, the more we can get our brand and our product out there, the better. And God, I love racing. I love these guys. And this is an amazing thing to be a part of.
All right. Well, with this being a virtual track, you can hop to anywhere you want to watch. But if you could go to the real one out here, where would you watch today for this race if it was out there in the physical world? Where would you spectate from?
Oh man, you're asking the wrong guy. I tried this track so many times, and I can't lay a lap down here, which is why I kindly backed out of racing this today. There's a section of kind of from rolling hills, and I don't know where it's at, but I've loved hitting that section. It's just, I love watching them coming through the corners and over the hills. I go to Sonoma and I watch out there all the time back in the old configuration. So, I still call it Sonoma. That's how long I've been around. So, I love watching the elevation changes and going around corners. I like watching the car suspension do that trick.
Well, if it tells you anything, I still sometimes slip a Sears Point when I watch a race at Sonoma. So if that tells you anything. But again, thank you so much for all you've put towards this series, and look forward to seeing the AM Championship again.
Oh yeah, we'll be around, and we're already making some plans for next year. So we're going to be growing and pushing and trying to make this thing even more exciting to be a part of.
Great stuff. That was Donovan Johns, owner of Volt Vapes, the official sponsor here of the Pacific Majors, the pro split actually. So we still got we got 9 minutes left. And we think that they might be forwarding the session and not have to wait this entire time. But until they do, we still got a number of things to talk about for this upcoming race. And Sam, I feel like, I know that you might not be as familiar with all the parts of this track, but I think you can attest that anybody who has memorized all the corners and how to race this track, they might have an advantage today.
Oh, absolutely, they'll have an advantage because as our viewers who may not be too familiar with the track have probably seen just from all the scenic views, the Nordschleife portion of the circuit just surrounded by trees, you can get confused very easily with the length of the track as to what part of a section you're actually in and which direction the next turn goes. It's a lot to memorize, and once you've got the memorization down, then you can really get to go and see how fast you can go. So those drivers who have done the practice, memorize the circuit, they're the ones who can push their cars to the limit, and they're the ones who will be racing up front for the victory today.
All right, well, we are going to go to a quick break. We'll come back after a moment. Oh, excuse me, the session. No, I do believe we need to go to break because nobody is in the session right now. We actually have to hop servers here. So we'll be back after a quick moment to bring you the start of the race. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. We apologize for the short wait. There was just some technical issues that the organizers ran into a glitch and had to start a new session, so we had to hop over with them, and everybody had to wait for a little bit. Thankfully, it seems like everybody's been pretty patient. Now, I know that Sean, you mentioned it a little bit earlier in our broadcast, but they're doing that single file start. What are your thoughts on that with that first corner and how tight it is? Do you think this is a smart decision? Do you think these guys would have been able to handle that if they had started too wide going into that corner?
Well, I don't know. I guess you're maybe protecting everybody from themselves. It may be one of the few opportunities you have to get out into the clean air. I don't know. I'm going to say I think the single file start, I think it's a good idea. I hope most of these guys are in for a long race. We've got, over 2 hours to go. This track presents many challenges. I think you're really going to just have to worry more about taking care of the car and driving the track than you are your opponent today. I'm sure we're going to see side-by-side racing. We're going to see passing, plenty of that. But I think on the start, I think you're going to see a lot of drivers be patient. Take it easy getting through that first turn. That'd be an awful way to end this race in the first turn of the first lap.
And speaking of which, of that patience and whatnot, Sam, there was some talk pre-race from some of the drivers. Some said even before we got to this session that they intended to start from the pits, which tends to give you about a 30-second penalty before you're released here in iRacing. What are your thoughts on that? If you were in this race, would you try and start from the pits? Would you be that worried about something bad happening in the first lap or two?
No, I mean, honestly, if I was in this race, I probably would start from the pits if I didn't think I had a hope of winning it, because that does seem to be a safer option. Because I'm a little bit more pessimistic than Sean is about this first turn thing here. Because if they were all double file, it's only the Grand Prix course, they would probably stay double file at the most going into the first turn, which granted is a hard one. But if they're all single file going into the first turn, you never know who's going to try and attempt an ambitious pass, maybe dive bomb a couple of cars in front of them. So it'll definitely be an interesting start. And yeah, you mentioned some cars elected to start from the pits. That's probably why we didn't see all of the cars turn qualifying times. I think there's 51 cars in a single split in this session, and only 35 of them turn qualifying times. Talking about that glitch, these drivers all knew there was a chance of it happening, and so the organisers sorted out a system that all of these drivers will be starting in the positions that they qualified in the previous session.
And speaking of which, we got about 10 seconds left, less than 10 seconds, until they should be gridding. Then we can read off the 55-car field, which sounds like a lot in other places, but around here at the Nürburgring, it's still going to get a little bit sparse towards the end of the race with, as we said, 15 miles worth of track between 55 cars. Everybody can get themselves a nice little piece of real estate. Well, now that they are ready to go to grid, let's go through the order for you. Troy Schultz is going to be starting on the pole. Jason Fleischle behind him in second. Fleischle has been doing great this season so far with some good finishes on both road and oval. Wyckoff will be starting in third with Callisto starting in fourth. And it's Jimbo Pfeiffer in fifth and Blake Reynolds in sixth. Michael Lane will begin the race in the seventh position, followed by Kyle Burney in eighth, Stephen Ellis in ninth, and rounding out the top 10, Sean, is Brian Barnes.
All right, let's go to 11th, and that's going to bring us Mark Jabinski in 11th. And just outside of him there, row 6, that's going to be Brian Bennett in 12th. Rob Gall starting on the inside of row 7. Well, like we said, single file, so we'll get away from that. Rob Gall in 13th. Richard Hearn, 14th. Sam Bourne, 15th today. Bob Beltrami, 16th. Kyle Murphy, 17th. David Warner, 18th. Kyle Gary, 19th. And Ryan Bird, 20th.
Now we get into the middle part of the field where I think it's going to be a bit more chaotic. We've got Aaron Stowe in 21st, followed by Mike Taylor, Taft Baldwin, Andy Kennedy, Steve Paulison, Ray Fournier, Tom Drearlin, Mike Franklin, David Freeboff, and Nick Hunt in the top 30. Those are the guys who, unfortunately, you might see a couple in the pits by the end of the first lap.
Then 31st is David Williams, Chris Beck in 32nd, Alan Haysbeck starting 33rd, followed by Paul Slavonic in 34th, and Michael Smith in 35th. Ray Partridge will start the race in 36th, Mark Redico in 37th, Chris Pence in 38th, Nicholas Harris in 39th, and 40th is Gary Nichols.
And 41st, you got, let's see,
Robert Pretis, then Jared Morgan, Trad Yoshitomi is starting 43rd, Carl Burke in 44th. Trocine will start in 45th with Howard Wendell in 46th. Then it's David Baker starting in the 47th position, Matt Gelder in 48th, Christopher Sherburne in 49th, and Chad Barker in 50th. 51st is going to be Adam Young, and then 52nd, we didn't get all 55 cars apparently, is going to be Seth Alberts rounding out the field. Still quite big today here, Sam.
Yeah, and they're all single file. They're all about to come through the final couple of turns right now. The pace car is already peeled off in front of them. I think they're getting ready to go racing here.
Schultz has got the green flag, and he accelerates away down into the first turn. Let's see what these guys have. It's going to be a long race, and this is a tight chicane. A little bit of a peak from our third place car, James Wyckoff. Everybody, as we said, starting single file, and I don't think anybody is interested in making too many crazy moves here at the start, Sean.
not at all. In fact, the guys at the back just let themselves spread out. Field really spreading out the back of the field just now, coming down the front straight, making their way down to Yokohama.
And just to tell you how big this field is, Troy Schultz has already got the Dunlop curve as Fleischle has dropped just a little bit back. Not able to hold on, but that's not going to matter too much here once we get into the Nordschleife. That is really going to decide who is strong where. And already, though, Troy Schultz is pushing. And I kind of wonder, Sam, if that's wise to push that hard. I feel like this track is going to reward those who... and Schultz goes wide already, very much just pushing hard into these corners. Fleischle is onto him. Is he going to try to overtake here before we get on the Nordschleife? And he does. And I think Schultz is letting him through.
Yeah, that answers your question right there, Joe. And it's almost like he's got slowed down here. He's really off the pace. But now we got the battle for the lead. Fleischle and Wyckoff is going around the outside. He was trying to get the lead in the very first turn. If we were doing the Grand Prix course, we'd be completing lap one by now. But we're making this left turn. We're out onto the Nordschleife, and we've got a new lead. He started third. He's up to first. And Wyckoff leads the field away. And now we've got a pack for second.
I think a number of these drivers did not understand that the difficulty level of this place does not promote passing, but that or they knew it and they were all trying to attempt it in the GP course. And yeah, you can see everybody starting to become single file. Bit of a mistake from Michael Lane back there, but doesn't cost him a position as they work their way up to the high oaks.
What happened to Schultz though? He has got back far in the field.
Well, his teammate James Wyckoff is streaking way ahead of Jason Fleischle as they work their way up to Quiddelbacher Heights.
Oh, and actually it's just fourth position there. Okay, I missed him.
A lot of cars to keep track of through here. And I'm curious, Sean, were you watching the back of the field at all? Do we have any accidents so far?
You know, Joe, no, amazingly enough, and most of them are just making their way off of the Grand Prix circuit now. Heading back into the woods, sir. They are heading on up the hill.
Oh, and bit of contact as Williams. Oh, we got a car off up in Quiddelbacher Heights into the fluke lots on the first lap, and that is David Freeboth. And Ray Partridge, I think, was the car that he made contact with. Yeah, Partridge off. Oh, no, that was not. The Partridge was with Nick Hunt. That was a separate incident.
Yeah, Freeboth actually still making contact with Alan Hessebeck.
And Partridge already taking a tow. There we see Richie Hearn in 13th. Now up to Hesbeck.
Yeah, but even after Freeboff pancaked the right-hand side of his roof a little bit, he was still getting involved in contact with Hessebeck. And there you see Hessebeck's 20 seconds. This is right in the middle of the field where we kind of expected a little bit of drama.
Ryan Barnes, meanwhile, is off the pace. I'm not sure if he made contact with someone somewhere, but he's being passed by multiple cars as they head down into hit, miss, hit. Hit, miss, hit, miss.
Hit, miss is what I'm going to do with these German corner names all race long ago.
That's why I have notes on the English versions. So our leader is still James Wyckoff out in the front. Fleischle is giving chase.
Change for third. Lionel Kalisto makes a mistake. Now he's under pressure from fourth by Jimbo Pfeiffer. That has allowed Troy Schultz to move up into third.
I believe actually this is fourth. Just one spot back.
Yeah, but Kalisto had been running in third because of Schultz's mistake on the GP course, and now he just fell back to fourth.
I see what you're saying. Now they come right back up the hill into the mountains once again through Kesselchen. Easy turn in this these GT3 cars. Flat out all the way up until they get to the loop curve. Courage Corner.
So what we got? We got two Mercedes out the front of the field there.
Looks like two Audis, yeah.
Two Audis, my
it's
apologies.
Team Audi right now.
Yeah, I'm going to say, Sean, you're the GT3 expert here, but would you recommend the Audis? Because they weren't the cars that qualified on pole.
No, they weren't, but I'll tell you what, they handled real well, and Joe talked about it in the pre-race about it being a really good middle-of-the-road car. Now, I got to be honest with you, the early part of this track, you need a car that handles well, and honestly, the horsepower, not a premium here as you get yourself up the hill. You really want a car that handles really good, and right now, Team Audi showing the ability to do that now. They've got a McLaren right there, and when they get down on the backside and hit Dottinger, then definitely they're going to have to worry about that horsepower of the McLaren.
And that's the big thing.
We got a couple cars off here, guys. Chad Yoshitomi in a number 46. Car really beat up. Gonna catch it on the replay, Joe.
Yeah, let's see what happened to Chad here. We're gonna go back just a little bit.
May have been a second incident, not sure if it's related, but Lionel Kalisto has a lot of damage. He was running up there in fourth place.
It looks like it involved Dave Freeboff. Yeah, Freeboff lost it.
Taft Baldwin got caught up in it too.
And so there were two separate incidents going on at the same time there, Joe.
Exactly, and this goes back to what we talked about with attrition. And I wanted to try and touch on before a challenge for the lead broke out, is that I don't think it's going to be about the outright speed here. It's just going to be about being consistent, keeping your car out of trouble, and we're going to see the winner at the end of the day. Probably going to be the driver that pushed his car. As Alan Prost put it, going the slowest he could while still winning. Yeah,
right at the time we were watching that incident, and now we see pass here by Schultz for second place as they catch up on the as they come to the back straight where the McLaren's really going to be an advantage. Kalisto from fourth was involved in an incident with another car, and so his machine's beat up and back in the field. And what that has allowed for is Kyle Burney, who started in 8th place, is now running in 5th position.
Nice couple of positions gained by him. Carl Burke getting into some trouble somewhere as we're watching cars stream on to the Dirty Nahul.
Tell you what, that McLaren may have straight line speed, but the cars behind him are the ones who have the slipstream. Jason Fleischle not doing anything with it though. They're going 170 miles an hour as it just gets twistier and twistier until they finally hit the brakes at the end here.
Ooh, guys, Carl Burke, I'm sorry, Carl Burke was racing hard and he made a little bit of contact, sent him off course, hit really hard, bent that machine up really good. The Audi, the number 53 of Carl Burke.
Yeah, we can see Burke on screen. That was in Flansgarden that he got little bit of contact from behind. You can see that Audi. Oh, and Jubinski's had a big incident we're hearing. Let's see if we can figure out what happened with him. Mark Jubinski heading, let's see, we've got the replay here. Oh, and this was into, it looks like, the Tiergarten section. And that is a scary part of the track, Sean. I can tell you, in my laps on here, I never quite want to try and maximize the entry of that corner with the speeds that you're entering.
Yeah, and Mark just, the car just bit left on him and it went straight into that. There's no runoff there at all. And he hits the very end of that barrier, crushes the front end really well, and then gets stuck on the wall while all that traffic has to get around just behind him. Really tough spot for Jubinski early on.
All right, we have our first lap down. So to give you the order, Wyckoff is leading. Schultz is in second. Fleischle has dropped down to third since the start. Jimbo Pfeiffer is actually challenging him. He is in fourth, and Kyle Burney rounds out in the top five. And actually, we might have a pass for third here. Jimbo Pfeiffer streaks on by Jason Fleischle, and I think Fleischle understood that discretion was a better part of valor in that one.
Well, these are the survivors up front here, the top five. We've had contenders in the top 5 and top 10 drop out. And like you mentioned, we've only done one lap around here. And I know it's a long lap, but even in just that one lap, James Wyckoff holds a 4.5 second lead over the rest of the field.
You know, Joe Jubinski not doing too bad. He honestly did not commit a pit. The damage on the left front of that car really not affecting the BMW too much. He's still at speed, and right now sitting in 13th place, battling with the Audi on the outside.
And that's heading back onto the Nordschleife. I feel like we're going to see a lot of cars, Sean, making passes there, hoping to desperately try and get by a slower car before they get back onto the Nordschleife section, where passing is so difficult.
Yeah, well, David Williams is working him over right now, but Jubinski, again, not really having too much trouble with the handling of that machine. I don't want to jinx him too much. This is a good battle.
We ride on board with Williams just behind Jubinski's BMW. The TNT racing machine, trying to see what he can do with Jubinski as they come out of High Oaks. He's got a good run. This is going to be a tricky part to go too wide, and I think Jubinski also lifted. A little bit of give and take around here. It's almost like an oval race here, Sean. Well, guys knowing when to give it up.
You know what? And they're going to have to talk to each other. They are most certainly going to have to talk to each other throughout this race. I mean, if you want to be on with the checkered flag, you're going to have to communicate with the guy ahead of you or the guy behind you, and you're going to have to work together a little bit.
Now they head through the Swedish Cross down into Erdenberg. Hard braking zone, one of the few places you can maybe squeeze a pass in around here, and they plunge downhill into the foxhole. Still Jubinski behind in the blue BMW. And this is for 13th position, Williams and P13 at the moment.
I almost feel that the reason you're seeing a lot of give and take, especially towards the GP portion of the circuit, is because that's the less treacherous part of the track. Being the modern day GP course, it has wider runoff areas if anything goes wrong, and also great overtaking opportunities. If there's a guy behind you and he's faster than you, you probably want to give that spot up before he's hounding you through this Nordschleife section, where really you're racing the track more than you should be the car behind.
Well, let's jump back to another little battle. We got a three-way battle between Gelder, Harrison, and Gary. Currently, it looks like they're heading into the Admiral Forst section. Slows the car down. We got a fourth challenger heading up to the back of these guys. It's Brett Trocine. Look at this, starting to get congested. I feel like we got a Truly train going. Harrison being the Truly of the train, up at the lead. He's sitting in 24th at the moment. Here we ride on board with Trocine, middle of the pack of these cars.
Yeah, I have a feeling something's going to give here at some point. There's not a whole lot of overtaking opportunities around here, Sean.
No, and you know what? The field is really starting to spread out. I have found one little interesting battle. Gary Nichols holding off Aaron Stowe right now, but Stowe really pretty solid in the BMW right now, and I think he's got a chance here to, once we get into a section here, we get a little bit of drafting going on. He's primed to make a move on Gary. Here comes Aaron Stowe in a number 29 now.
Got a little bit of a run on him, but once again, just not much of a place to make it happen as they head up the hill into Kesselchen. And again, this is for that 22nd position, 21st position actually.
They've also got David Warner in the picture. He's coming in the Audi just behind them. He's really picking up steam, heading up the hill here.
While this is, I was going to say, while this is going on, that five-way battle, actually I think it might be even a six-way battle now. It looks like it's still 5 cars with Gary, Gelder, and Harrison leading the way, heading up to Courage Curve. Let's see who has the courage. This could be an opportunity to get a run on the car ahead, and no, they're all still in line. Now up to Stylestrecke, that's the next heavy braking zone. Is anybody going to risk their car and send one up the inside? Still all in line.
I feel once you get to the carousel here, Joe, it's almost like you're coming home from a lap of a circuit. It's like you know the back straight isn't too far away. It's only a couple more minutes, and if a guy in front is holding you up, you can make it past there.
Absolutely. So this is where patience is going to be key. Guerri very close behind Gelder at the moment.
I'm sorry, Brian Bennett from 7 spins and goes off the track before he gets hit. That was the second time he had an off-course excursion this lap, but this time he gets into the wall and he was running in 7th position.
And this looks like this was in Flansgarden 2. We're going to get a replay on board here.
Catching that on replay, it does look like maybe he had a little bit too much air, maybe.
Yeah, those 2 crests over there, they're very scary. Even in these GT3 cars, which can have a fair bit of downforce most times. Your car gets very light.
It seems like it did get light. And you want to keep those wheels on the ground, Joe.
Certainly important for traction.
I'll make a note of that.
Meanwhile, Kyle Murphy. Sorry, Kyle Murphy also off. And this looks like it happened in Swallowtail. Not entirely sure. My screen seems to go blank here. Can't see what happened to him. Oh, on the replay, looks like rear end on that Audi just didn't want to grip as much as the front end did.
Yeah, and he's a little banged up. That gone broke Audi has got a little bit of wing damage on the rear end and doesn't seem to be tracking him real well now.
We got another one that bit the dust in Flansgarden, Nicholas Harrison. This one before those 2 crests heading over to the left is in the uphill section where the car compresses. Go ahead.
He was the driver who had that train behind him, so perhaps the pressure of keeping the cars at bay behind him finally bit him. We'll see here.
Well, he didn't have anybody close behind at that moment. You can see the air that they get heading down into Flansgarden. But you know what? That rear... Oh, we couldn't quite see it on the replay, but I feel like it was that rear engine roof, to all the weight on the back when the car compresses around there. I'm guessing just gripped a little too much.
Let's talk a little bit about drivers who are doing better than the drivers who are heading into the pits, and those are the leaders, especially Troy Schultz. The leaders have now completed 2 laps. Schultz took 2.1 seconds out of James Wyckoff's lead that lap. At that rate, at the end of this lap, the 3rd lap, he would be only 4/10 back of Wyckoff.
Well, let's see what Schultz can do. Remember, these 2 are teammates, so they definitely won't want to take each other out if they do start battling. There we see Schultz, our 2nd place driver, heading onto the Nordschleife just behind his teammate into the Nord curve. You can see him just up on screen. And they are followed very closely by Jimbo Pfeiffer. He is not letting these guys go.
Battle for fourth shaping up. Jason Fleischle might be challenged by Kyle Burney at some point this lap.
Fleischle must have had a stellar qualifying lap. Remember, he started in second place, but he's been dropping back quick. I remember talking to him quite a bit before the race. He does not like this track, Sean. So I guess there's a difference between preference and talent.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan at all. I'll tell you what, I dropped back just a little bit further. Good little battle brewing here between Brian Barnes and Rob Gall. Now, that's a battle for 7th place. Those two keeping it close and having a little fun out there. It's been an interesting trip around. Those BMWs are they're stuck, though. I got to be honest with you. They've got pretty good grip, Joe.
Yep, heading up over the Flugplatz. Well, Kuhlbacher Heights, technically. That really should be named the Flugplatz with the way that cars usually get air over that one. Never quite understood why Flugplatz was the next corner around. Meanwhile, we do have a battle between Trocin and Gelder, and they're just heading towards the chicane that's right before they come onto the Nordschleife. Unfortunately, it looks like Trocin, not able to make it happen, drops back a little bit, so he's going to have to be held up for a little bit longer until he can find another opportunity here. He was within 2/10 for a bit. I thought for sure that he was going to have a go.
Found a little battle here. Oh, David Warner.
For the 17th position, yeah. Stephen Paulison. Paulison having to drop back, and let's see, this was also coming up to Quiddelbacher Heights. And look at that, I think Warner was being held up because he is streaking away from Paulison. Looks like both of these guys driving Audis today.
Yeah, they are, but that one just a little bit quicker. Warner on it, baby. That R8 is moving.
So we jump back. Oh, so for a second we jumped up a little bit, but we're back on this battle. And yeah, I think the legs are definitely on Warner's car right now because he has extended that gap to already about 1.5 seconds, and he got by him not more than about 20 seconds ago.
You know, it also comes back to what you talked about in the pre-race, Joe, about, you know, whether or not guys have a little memory for this course. You know, if you've got this thing down, you've got it down. I know there's a lot of guys out there that do. I am not one of them. I can't even fathom it, to be honest with you. But, you know, it could be a case where Warner just, again, dialed in, prepared, ready.
Well, when Gelder is off, as we ride on board with him, cuts across the track, that was an out and forced. And he might have a slowdown. The car behind him, Brett Trocin, might have a way past. This is for 22nd position.
One portion of the track where you can put a couple wheels off and keep on going.
Absolutely. And to your point, Sean, as we continue to watch this battle, as someone who has memorized the track from years of playing Forza, I can imagine the drivers who could take the time to practice in this car specifically and not have to learn the track. They're able to get up to speed a lot quicker, I'm sure. Someone who doesn't have it memorized has to spend the time not just figuring out how to go fast, but just where in the world these corners are.
Well, you know, as a driver, you learn to try and look ahead, right? Down the track, see what's coming. And that's one of the unfortunate things about this track and what makes it so tricky. You can't look ahead too far. And it looks like Trocin, out of that battle, he gave it up. Gelder gets away, Trocin got off, but he's okay, back on course. But yeah, like I said, you know, you really, you just got to be in control.
Speaking of being in control, Wyckoff, our leader, only has it by about 1.5 seconds, and that's been lower than that recently. It's been yo-yoing as each driver is better at certain parts of this course. But Schultz hunting him down, trying to see if he can reel in his partner and maybe take over that P1 position.
I don't think it's as much of Schultz's pace as a difference here as it is Wyckoff's pace, because Jimbo Pfeiffer is kind of close to Schultz. He's actually dropped back a little bit this lap, but Pfeiffer and Schultz basically ran Wyckoff down last lap. Wyckoff was a little bit off the pace. I wonder if maybe he was relaxing because he knew he had a bit of a lead, but right now Schultz is definitely into that gap up front. Meanwhile, I was taking a look back in the field at the driver in 17th place, Kyle Murphy, doing a pretty good job considering the fact that his car is pretty badly beat up, but still running around there in 17th.
That R8 is not in a good condition anymore. Speaking of conditions, the condition of the race today is about 2 hours left in this 2 hour and 24 minute race. So we haven't even hit the first quarter of this race yet. Meanwhile, we jump back to Stephen Paulison in 18th. But I think we should go to the lead because it's down to half a second. And they are on to the Dirty North straight. He's reeling him in. He's got the draft. We could see a change for the lead as they come up to the kink.
And McLaren horsepower.
Around the R8. Change for the lead. Troy Schultz up to the front. And remember, Schultz started this race in first place, so we know he's got good pace.
Oh, Sean, you know these cars. What's Schultz's weakness here? He's fastest in qualifying. He made a mistake on the first lap. He's got back up to the lead, though, and he looks pretty solid. I mean, but what could cost him the win here today?
any one of these turns, a loss of focus. No, I think if Schultz continues to lay down the kind of laps he was doing in practice, I think he's in good shape. You know, again, we know where that car is really fast. He's right now running a pretty good line, getting around pretty smooth. Now we are on the Grand Prix section of the track, but the McLaren definitely has the juice to go the distance, man, and it's a very, very durable car. It's not going to wear out as quick as, let's say, maybe some of his opponents. If he finds a little bit of trouble, that car can take a pretty good beating, Sam.
Took a look back at the battle for fourth there as well, because remember those two drivers, Fleischle and Bernie, were on top of each other last lap, and I think this is really where you want to try and make a pass, but you can see Bernie's just not close enough right now.
Yeah, he was closing in for a while. I was watching that as well, Sam, and looks like he just doesn't quite have the pace on the GP course where he really would want it. Fleischle starting to streak away. They're going to head up to the chicane here, and then it's back onto the Nordschleife where we know that Fleischle is not a fan. Let's see if maybe that's going to allow Bernie to get right back up on that rear spoiler and maybe harry him into a mistake somewhere along the line.
And something to bear in mind for the end of this lap is we could see drivers begin short pitting at the completion of this lap and make it on just one more stop. We're thinking the race will be about 18 laps long. They can get about 7 laps on fuel, so you can pit on laps 4 and 11 if you want the short stop throughout the race.
And
yeah, that's a decent strategy to think about, Sam. Really, it is. You can make up time there.
With us being on lap 4, and as I said, about 30 minutes into this race and only 4 laps, gives you an idea of the length and the size of this track that these guys can only complete as we continue to watch this race for for 4th place.
Somewhere right now, an Isle of Man TT regular is laughing at us, but we'll ignore them.
Let's see.
I'll tell you what, Joe, and it's not a battle, and it's not going to be a battle anytime soon, but the leader, when Troy Schultz took the lead, he hasn't exactly pulled away from Wyckoff, and I'm wondering if Wyckoff is perhaps just sitting back there and learning his teammates' line a little bit, and perhaps even getting a bit of a help from the drum.
Yeah, there's plenty of places where you reach high speeds around here, and if you're within about a second, you're going to get a nice little tow. This is not one of those places. Oh, and you can see a mistake from Wyckoff going a little bit wide through that left-hander. That's cost him some time. It's gone back up to just about a second and a half between himself and Schultz. But yeah, you're right. He's not dropping off drastically. Oh, and a big mistake from Schultz goes off track. That's a scary place to unload the tires onto the grass coming through Metzgerfeld.
Yeah, you're talking about a battle, Joe. There's also two cars running pretty close in 9th and 10th. Do you see any other battles out there, Sean?
Yeah, Michael Smith, and he's going at it, trying to make a move on David Warner.
Here we can see this is for 14th and 15th.
Oh, and we might not want to go back to the battle for 9th because Beltrami just saw that David Williams was faster than him and let him by on the straight. So that's over.
Sorry we missed that one, but this battle that we're watching is pretty good, and it might become a three-way battle because Alan Haysbeck closing in on the back of these two. There you can see Smitty in the BMW black and yellow machine just behind him. Warner and the R8 red machine coming through the foxhole, now up to Adner Forst.
The great thing about an 8-minute circuit, we only have 5 cars off of the lead lap.
Well, and that's something that we need to talk about, is the lap traffic. That is going to affect things greatly because there's not too many places that the lap traffic can actually...
I'm sorry, one of the cars in the top 10, Adam Young, not in the top 10, I apologise, but it's gone off course in the number 21 machine.
Let's see what happened to Young.
My timing and scoring was throwing a glitch at me there. Oh, and he just spun around.
Where was this? Oh, this was up into Swallowtail. Yeah, it looks like on entry it started to wiggle on him, and then thankfully he didn't really touch the barrier. So I think he's okay.
Yeah, he's okay from that incident, but it looks like he's been involved in the previous incident, which probably caused him the turn there. And to be honest, there's probably a bunch of drivers out there with damage who are having off-course excursions all the time. We just got this one on camera.
Yeah, I was about to say it. This is going to look more like a race at Bristol with cars, very few cars, looking whole at the end of this thing. And there you can see David Warner behind Smitty is a good example of that. Wow. As he's going to actually attempt to pass out of the 4 Lauda Lynx. Smooth move from him as they now head into the uphill section of the course, back up the mountain. And I'm amazed that that Audi has got as much speed as it does with all the damage on that car. Meanwhile, let's go up to the lead because Wyckoff has closed back in on Schultz to under a second, pressurizing his teammate. Apologies for a couple glitches on screen.
Happen. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously good for Wyckoff. It keeps him in striking distance for the win of this race. But that being said, it's early on in the race, and I have a feeling when he knows that Schultz was running him down at 2 seconds a lap, I have a feeling he's going to want to just sit in second here, probably stay a second back of his teammate, try and hold on to him, maybe challenge for the lead on the final lap. But there's still a lot of different directions this race could go in.
Looking back at 40th now, Howard Wendell. And 40th on most races would seem like a poor position, but he's still got 12 cars behind him. So as he's running by his lonesome, not doing too bad, just kind of running his own race. We haven't seen him run into Indy trouble, at least not that I can remember.
Hey, Joe, I've just caught up with Michael Lane, the number 62. He's making his way through the carousel, just got out of it. Tell you what, that car is tracking well. That Mercedes is on a run, trying to pick up Kyle Gary. Got a little bit of work to do to get to him, but he passed Mike Franklin like he was standing still.
And Stephen Paulison up ahead of Gary just had a major problem cutting the track and then running into the barrier. Trying to see where this took place. Can't quite figure out what part of the track they're on.
It's going to be another position for Michael Lane if he can just keep going. Keep the momentum he's had.
So Stephen Paulison with his damage is going to allow the car of Michael Lane to just breeze on through, but we've jumped back up to our leaders, still very close. Schultz has managed to get it back up to about a second.
And for the first lap this race, the top 5 is the same as what it was the previous time around.
Oh, Carl Burke not happy once again. Let's see what's been happening with him. Oh, and that is a major issue. 2 cars off the track.
Oh, wow.
And I
Major
believe
shunt for Burke.
this happened in the High Lookout, which was where the last one happened with the last car that we saw go off. Cut the course. I'm trying to remember which driver that was. A lot of action been going on. And it looks like it was just that Burt could not avoid the car in front coming across the track. Tom Dreeling trying to get his car righted. Unfortunately, did not see the car of Burt coming.
Yeah, Burke just plowed right into him, Joe, and and it just knocked the whole front end off of Burke's car.
I remember Burke had trouble a little bit earlier coming through Flan's Garden. Unfortunately, we've got to take a short break. We'll be back in a moment after this brief message. Welcome to the Nürburgring. We come back to the 2.4 hours of the Nürburgring, sponsored by Volt Vapes here in the 4th round of the Pacific Majors. As you can see, it is still Troy Schultz leading. Apologize for the technical difficulties that we had there for a moment. Unfortunately, this means that we won't be able to provide any more instant replays for the rest of the broadcast, so we'll try our best to catch all the action for you guys. And Sam, you noticed some action happening in 6th there.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Stephen Ellis had a spin in the middle of a Nordschleife section of a track. He really didn't hit anything that hard, kind of brushed the wall when he tried to come back on the circuit, but decided to pull his car to a halt and take a tow into the pits. So maybe there's a bigger story there, so that's unfortunate because he was running in at 6th place. What it does mean is a battle for 7th, or rather 2 cars running within proximity of each other for 7th, is now for 6th place, and now you see it on screen, Rob Goal ahead of Brian Barnes as they've just completed the 5th lap of this race.
And one thing that we haven't mentioned yet is the amount of laps that have gone by since our break, and David Williams seems to have hit his 7th lap because he is in the pits.
Yeah, so Sam Boren brought it in also, Joe. So the dominoes are starting to fall.
And let's go to a battle for 12th place. Warner and Bennett very close together within 2/10. Although Warner starts to drop back just a little bit as they head into Hohenrad. And now onto the front stretch.
And that's what I was going to mention, actually, was about Bennett. Bennett already pit. Bennett's already been in. He's already had that pit stop. So Bennett's good to go. And, he's being chased by Warner, who does still have to go in.
There you can see Bennett and Warner on screen, both in R8s. On to the main GP course. Down into Valvoline corner. Not really a passing spot in this instance. Fairly medium speed corner, not a whole lot of braking. Around Ford and then down to the Dunlop hairpin. These two within about a second of each other. Now, one thing also that I know both Sean and Sam noted, there was a driver who slipped back, started in 7th position. I'm trying to look through my notes here real quick, figure out. That was Lane, wasn't it? Michael Lane. Lane has been trying to make his way back through the field. Now, interesting note about Lane, actually, though. He put in the most practice laps of anybody, 106 official practice laps for this race. They're only going to do 18 in 2.5 hours around here. Imagine how long it took him to get through 106.
And you see that even though I believe he was involved in some kind of early incident, he doesn't have any damage to his car right now, and that's because they're all allowed 1 free repair, Sean.
Yes, they are, and I believe he may have taken that to get where he's at, but Lane definitely holding it down really well now in that BMW. Don't mess with Texas, baby. Michael Lane's coming, but yeah, he passed Michael Smith and Alan Hesbeck and Kyle Gary and Brett Trozen, and really just continue to march up through the field.
There we see Smitty trying to hold off the car of Alan Hesbeck. These two have been battling for quite a while. BMW versus Mercedes. They head on to the Nordschleife.
And the Mercedes just hasn't seemed to been able to make the move on him, to be honest with you.
Now, I'm not sure if this is just the setup I was using or not. I felt like the Mercedes was just a little floaty, so I wasn't really a fan of driving that one. Wonder if it's difficult with all the bumps around here for him to really tell what's going on with the car and try and be aggressive with it.
Man, it is. And you talked about those bumps. It is so easy to upset the car. It really is.
One thing I couldn't help but notice that Joe, David Williams, who pitted from 8th place, he comes out in the middle, somewhere between 10th and 20th right now. There he is, actually showing in 15th on the screen. What challenges do you face pitting a GT car on a circuit like this?
Well, one of the big things that we should mention that they run into is that they cannot change tires and fill fuel at the same time. And Sean, I know that I'm guessing that everybody's going to take tires anyways, just because of the length of time that they'll be out on this fuel.
Yeah, you need the tires. I'm sorry, there's just too much going on here. Too much sliding around and yeah, no, you're going to get those tires. Now, yeah, that pit stop obviously going to take just a bit now. The question is that next pit stop that you've got to get to, okay? That might be the one where you decide to keep those tires on. Maybe just take the fuel you need, run her out to the end. It's going to depend on where you're at on the track and really how many realistic positions you have ahead of you.
Well, we've jumped up to 6th and 7th position. Barnes still hassling Gall. They're heading uphill around Courage Curve. And then they're going to get to the Style-Strecke. Look at Barnes start to close in, but as they come around that fast right-hander, just cannot keep with him. Unfortunately, no passing opportunity for him as they hit the top of the hill now.
Well, they've been running like this for a little while, Joe. I wonder how much of this is hassling and how much of this is, hey, we've got a good thing going here. We're running in 6th and 7th place. We're following each other's racing lines. We're probably learning a bit from each other. One of the drivers in the top 5 will probably hit trouble before the end of this race. So let's just keep up a good thing going here in the early stages.
Yes, as we ride on board with Barnes. Look at him close in on Gall here up at Hedwig Heights.
Oh, one car already multiple laps down, or maybe just one or two. Trad Yoshitomi came to a halt on the track. He's got a bit of damage on his number 46 machine. Looks to be off the racing line, so he shouldn't have anyone collect him.
Yeah, but he's still stuck there, Sammy. Having trouble getting going. He's back under power now. I'm sure he was just being careful, but he was stuck there for just a moment.
And we've already seen one car, I believe it was Carl Burke, run into another car that was trying to get himself righted. I'm sure the F3 is going to be extremely important around here because there's not a lot of room. You kind of have to do what we like to call the old Austin Powers around here, Sean, to get it turned back around.
Yeah, you do. Just not a lot of space to get it done for sure. On a few spots of this track, there's absolutely no place to turn around.
Here we see Burke on screen. Must have taken his free repair. That car looking a lot better since he last made contact. Meanwhile, let's jump back to 13th. Back to Smitty once again. We've been watching this battle off and on between himself and Hesbeck. Hesbeck still unable to do anything in that Mercedes. They're up to Hedwig Heights here.
Our
the
race
highest
leader.
parts of the track. Go ahead.
Our race leader, Troy Schultz, coming into the pits at the end of the 6th lap. Now, I've got to wonder, Sean, in the McLaren, he's obviously got a higher top-end speed than the rest of his competitors up front. Could that be burning more gas? Could that limit his strategy card today?
Oh, just a little bit. I mean, when you're up front, obviously you're not getting a really good opportunity to draft with anybody, but now he's got the ponies to get this thing done, but that was a good stint. Right around the time we were thinking he would probably take it, so it looks like that they're on schedule.
All right, Schultz, as we mentioned, is in. Wyckoff is in. Bernie is in. However, Pfeiffer and Fleischle have both elected to continue on. Next car in line is going to be Rob Gall, and he decides to stay out, it looks like. Same thing with the car behind him. That would be Brian Barnes. We were watching this battle a little bit earlier, so they're going to work their way up through the order. They are now on to lap 7. We expect most cars who continue on through this lap to pit at the end of it.
It kind of makes sense why Schultz would pit now, Joe, but also it kind of doesn't. If you're thinking this race is going to be 18 laps long, you would want to pit every 6 laps to keep the freshest tyres on your car. Pit on lap 6, pit on lap 12. That being said, though, if you're having an incident-free race, you might want to stay out as long as you can so that if you get involved in an incident in the middle of a race, you can still come in and use your free repair without affecting your pit strategy that much.
This is very true, but the other thing to take into consideration is if you can get out and clear track. And right now, Troy Schultz has done that. No one ahead, no one behind. Same things with James Wyckoff. They're all by their lonesome to just run their laps. And if there ever was a track that you wanted to be able to just race the track and not your opponent, this would be one of them.
Guys, watching Alan Hesbeck coming through Tiergarten right now, and he, I'll tell you what, I look for him to come into the pits right here. He hasn't done it yet. I look for him to come in. That car was really having trouble coming down the mountain, Joe, all over the place. Golly, he's going to keep it out. Really think he's struggling with the tires on that machine right now. I'm surprised he kept it on track with it. Like I said, that trip he just had down the mountain was not a fun one. The car was all over the place. He gave up spots to Kyle Gary and David Williams. They got right by him, took advantage of that opportunity.
Well, could be like Sam was saying, where maybe he's attempting to save his free repair as long as he can and leave those pits for as late as he can. But it looks like he's actually starting to reel in Gary and Williams, who are just ahead of him. They're about 2 seconds away from Hesbeck at the moment.
Well, we talked about it often. If you're going to make up some ground, this is not a bad spot to get it done.
Wow.
Yeah, Gary slides off there just in front of him.
And Williams did the exact same thing, going very wide in a Dunlop.
Brakes are hot. Tires are hot.
Track is hot. 105 degrees.
It's a good point. We haven't talked about what the weather conditions are like yet.
Well, it's a beautiful 70-degree day here in the mountains, but it's 105 degrees on track, baby, and 60 degrees of humidity. It's a sticky one.
Well, these drivers on iRacing are lucky. In real life, it's probably different weather on one end of the circuit than it is on the other.
Seriously, it's this track is known for having rain on one end, and then there's no rain, and then there's rain in yet another section. Very difficult to call. Weather can be totally different. You literally are driving up and down a mountain around this course.
Okay, so that begs the question, do we get dirt first or weather first, gentlemen?
Well, according to iRacing, we're getting dirt first, so at least they haven't mentioned anything about variable weather around the track. Although I would love that. That would be very cool.
Yes, sir, it would. And what if you could actually get some tires that were designed to run in the wet just a little bit? Would probably
I'm sure
be a
they'll
little
do
fun.
that.
Oh, Hesbeck off course. I'm still watching him. Just wanted to make sure what I saw wasn't a mistake.
Sorry, let's go up to Brian Barnes because he is right on the back of Rob Gall now. Might have a passing opportunity down into the valley, but not yet. Just can't find a way through. But look at that gap. He is now 4/10 behind, right on the rear spoiler. Absolutely putting the pressure on to Rob Gall.
Well, my concern here, Joe, is with the barriers around, it's that the tyres on all these cars have been burning off. We've been seeing them slide around. If Gold slides around a little bit too much and gets involved in an incident, Beck's not going to have, Barnes isn't going to have anywhere to go.
Yeah, he's going to have to keep his wits about him. And yet still, he can't hold too far back because if there's just a little bit of a slip up and he's got a hold, he's got to slip in there and try to overtake Gall.
And coming up about 5 seconds a lap faster than them behind them is Troy Schultz. After his pit stop, he'll probably catch this battle by the end of a lap, or maybe next time around.
Now, is that tires or is that just Schultz's natural speed? That's what I wonder.
Well, I think a lap time being registered right now is before he came into the pits.
Got a battle, guys. Oh, Lionel Kalisto working over Kyle Murphy. Murphy giving Kalisto the okay to go on by.
And that was through
that's for
Ehrenberg.
position.
Callisto was running in fourth earlier, if I remember correctly, when he was involved in an incident in the early laps. He's obviously got his feet repaired, and now he's rallying his way back up through the field.
We are down to about an hour and a half left in this race. And apparently Brian loves Nicole, according to the track.
Well, I'm glad he caught that one and not some of the other ones we've seen on this track in pictures of real life.
I think iRacing has made sure to make the graffiti family safe before they put this track up.
Yeah, I've done a flyover over most of the sections. I don't believe I've seen any of those images duplicated. Michael Smith actually just getting past.
Ah, so finally. Oh no, that's Beltrami's.
Yeah,
That
Beltrami getting around him.
That wasn't the Mercedes that had been hassling him for most of this race. It was Hesbeck earlier that was fighting him.
Now Beltrami's been in. He's taken a pit. Now Smitty hasn't.
And Smitty will probably take his stop at the end of this lap. Not exactly a track where you can play too much with the fuel. Can't exactly make another lap or two usually out of saving it. Meanwhile, Jimbo Pfeiffer, our leader, is actually heading towards the kink in the long Darinojo straight. And he should be coming into pit very soon. Relinquish it back to Schultz.
Yeah, Pfeiffer was running third before the pit stop cycle. Not having a bad race out there today.
Kyle Gary has just spun out of the carousel.
And we see Pfeiffer head into his pit stall.
Gary, one of those cars that had not come into the pit yet, coming through the carousel.
And he's
spun
still
around.
stationary, actually, as we see Fleischle come into his pit stall. Now he's trying to get turned around. Thankfully, he's totally clear. Oh, now he's got a car coming. And
That's one of those spots that we just talked about.
Yep, and here he goes. He should be able to let them sneak by, or is he going to? How damaged is his car? That is Chad Yoshitomi, and Chad gets by, just barely. That goes to show you how tight it is around here.
Costly mistake. He just gets loose coming off the carousel and it bit right on the wall. It didn't beat up the car too bad, but he lost so much precious time there. Just couldn't get it turned around.
All right, Gall is in, Barnes is in. Remember, these two have been fighting quite a ways. Next car in line has already taken his stop. That's Troy Schultz, going to re-inherit the lead.
You know, just another quick note on Kyle Gary. That car had not been in the pit yet. Seeing these cars that are still on track, a little loose, a little slick out there.
All right. So things are reordering themselves. Once we have all of these cars come in for their last stop, then we'll read through the order for you. It might take another couple minutes as the gap between first and the last car on the lead lap is about 8 minutes. So quite a ways of difference.
Well, and talk about quite a ways of difference. There's a bigger gap now between James Wyckoff and Jimbo Pfeiffer than what there once was. They will be in second and third positions, and they are in second and third positions, but I'm pretty sure that Wyckoff has actually gained a bit of time over Pfeiffer there through that round of pit stops. Fleischle comes out in fourth and Kyle Burney in fifth, so they're still in the order that they were before that round of stops began, the top five. David Warner in sixth place. I don't think he's pit yet.
That would be pretty amazing if he hasn't. You're right, he hasn't pit yet, but can he make it a whole nother lap around? It's lap 8. These cars can do about a maximum of 7 on their fuel. That'll be impressive. He's sitting in 6th, so I guess he hasn't stopped, so yes, he's gained some positions from that, but he's certainly not being slow.
I'll tell you who the big winner so far is on those pit stops is really got to be Troy Schultz. I mean, he's almost 19 seconds ahead of Wyckoff now after that cycle of pit stops. And well, we talked about what the McLaren can do if it's out front and it doesn't really have anybody chasing it. That handles a little bit better. That's looking pretty solid for Troy Schultz after that first pit stop.
Yeah, we're not seeing a whole lot of McLarens out in this field, and it's kind of surprising. However, Schultz is going to have some trouble. He's got Chad Barker ahead of him. Chad was having some trouble. He's lapped traffic. This is going to be some of the first we've seen of the leaders having to deal with this. He is approaching him quick. Is Chad going to pull over? This is going to be a good spot for him to do it. Nice long straight. Ooh, very close. Giving him about inches to spare. Whew. And that was on one of the easy parts to overtake. So Schultz works his way around Ehrenberg. That gap between himself and Wyckoff, as we mentioned, 18 seconds, about 6 back from Wyckoff to Pfeiffer. So Pfeiffer not able to quite hold ground. That could change very quickly, as we've seen. And Fleischle, who started in second, but has dropped back to fourth, unable to hold that high position.
Now another driver, the driver behind David Warner, who we talked hasn't pitted yet, we don't believe, is Michael Lane. Now, of course, I think Michael Lane pitted very early in the race for repairs, so I think he might still have 2 scheduled stops left to go.
Yes, he has 1 stop on his chart so far. I'm not sure
That's
what
right.
lap that was,
Lane,
though.
Lane did come in early. He pit lap 4.
So
that's
very
interesting.
early.
So
Yeah.
maybe he wasn't back there for repairs. Maybe he's using that real extreme short pit strategy.
That's what I was just thinking, Sam. I think you called it early in the race, and I think that's the way that he's going.
Somebody was listening.
However, as
Michael
he works
Lane, if you can hear us, swerve across the track.
well, he's going to have a 30-second delay on that if he does. But I was going to say, he's about 4 seconds back from David Warner, the other guy who has not pit. And Warner is in 6th position currently. He's heading down to Callenhard.
Okay.
Hard right-hander.
Guys, it was a gross miscalculation on my behalf. I do apologize. He actually was in on lap 2. So I'm thinking maybe he did find a little bit of trouble early. I must have missed that, but obviously that's not gonna get it done.
Another driver who just hit a bit of trouble was Ray Partridge. Had his machine binned in the wall, and now he's taking it to the pit.
There you can see him waiting for the tow truck to actually get his car in. The number 37 not looking too good. Or actually, excuse me, not the number 37. He's in 37th position. And what's happening behind him? The car reversing in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think somebody missed their pit stall there.
I'm not sure who that was, but it was a
Chris
McLaren.
Pence.
Ah,
Chris Pence, he's still sitting there. I'm
Thank
not
goodness.
sure what's going on.
thank goodness it's not real world rules, because he would be black flagged immediately for that.
Joe, the car for Chris is still just sitting there. Don't see any damage on the car.
Meanwhile, let's watch Schultz as he works his way past Stephen Paulison. Let's see what's next up for Troy Schultz. Chris Beck, I think that's what you're about to say, Sam.
Yep. Yeah, these are all drivers, I think, who have encountered a little bit of trouble earlier on. I mean, obviously they're 8 minutes down, so they probably, had to been involved in some kind of incident. Even if you don't see damage, they probably came in for an unscheduled stop to get a free repair.
Schultz has been, I don't want to say putting on a clinic today, but he's certainly been looking dominant once he was able to get back to the lead. Remember, he started on pole, and it just took him a while to get back up to the front. after he lost it from some early mistakes. I feel like he maybe learned his lesson not to push the car too hard. And thankfully, he did that on the GP course where he's actually got a bit of runoff.
I'm very curious what happened there. If he missed a shift or something, I don't know if he's racing with a manual transmission.
Be unusual since the McLaren does not have it, has paddle shifters in the real world. So if he's got paddle shifters on his car, he can't feel shame for simply using those.
Tell you what has happened through this set of pit stops is a battle between Rob Gall and Brian Barnes has really broke up. It was about yeah, and now you see Williams is right ahead of Gall there, but yeah, Brian Barnes is several seconds behind, not a part of the battle anymore. And
meanwhile, Williams takes a little bit of a excursion off course, doesn't hurt the car. That was down through Brunchen. Still, Gall is really reeling him in. And another driver that I want to watch in a bit is Michael Lane, who is closed in on David Warner as well.
Guys, the number 66, Mike Taylor, under threat right now. Good little battle going on. Him and Lionel Kalisto mixing it up.
Looks like Kalisto able to make the pass, and that was up to Lauda Lynx. Now they work their way around the late apex of Bergwerks. And I think we can switch to David Warner because it's going to be game over for him. The draft is going to Michael Lane as they work their way down Dirty Hole, and now he's starting to reel him in. Moves to the left as they work their way past the tourist part.
That's just really good timing. That's a good spot to catch him. Get around. He's been working on that for a little while. But that's another spot down for Michael Lane.
Although we should see David Warner head into the pits unless he has some really magic fuel in that car. And there he goes, finally. One of the few drivers to stretch it to 8 laps. In fact, I think he's the only driver to stretch it to 8.
Yeah, he's the last one to come in. He is the lone warrior. I look down through the field, though, and I see old Nick Hunt sitting back there at 34th place. Nick has not been in. Nick taking the easy way around, probably just taking care of the car and just trying to finish the race. And that was one of those theories I had going into this. Didn't really talk about it. Is, if that's your approach and you're just going for a nice Sunday drive, you save a lot of fuel doing that.
Well, it looks like Hunt's been in the wars a bit. The right front of that car not looking too good. I went through the field myself. Richard Hearn, I don't see a pit stop on his time and scoring either. I'm not sure if that's an error on my screen or if Richie hasn't come in either. He's sitting in 23rd at the moment.
Yeah, mine's showing he did, but you never know.
I have a feeling where we're getting these errors might be where drivers have taken toes to the pits, and maybe it hasn't been registering as a pit stop because both those drivers are far back of where they started. So, like you say, Joe, have probably been in the wars a bit today.
Could be the case, but we look at David Williams once again, and that battle with Gall is not over yet. Still on the GP course, but now coming up to the chicane that will lead them off.
Gall had Barnes behind him for the first stint of this race, and Barnes never made a move. He was patient, and Gall be just as patient.
We'll have to wait and see through that fast left-right chicane, and then entering the Nordschleife, getting it right up to that wall. Both of them going very close. Not afraid to try and stretch this track to its limits.
Guys, I don't think it's any great secret that David Williams had a great run today. I mean, he started 31st. He's up to 9th. The car is really moving right now. He is. He's got the tongue hanging out on that Audi.
And remember, Williams was last season's overall champion. He prides himself in being an overall driver, being able to hop in any situation and at least do well. Maybe not be the fastest, but do well.
We saw a couple of cars do 8 laps in that first stint. I'm wondering, these cars such as Michael Lane, who pitted on lap 2 with issues, could they stretch this out to maybe just one more stop? Because if he could walk away with 6th. Then again, the way the field is getting spread out, even if he did have to make 2 more stops, he'd probably only fall down to 10th or so by the end of it then.
We're right on board with Lane. At the moment, the front end of that machine looking a little bent up though. I want to jump back to Alan Hesbeck for a moment. He was within under a second of Stephen Ellis. But dropped back a little bit now. Thought that might have a little bit of a battle for this 16th position.
Ellis has returned to the track then after taking that tow from the pits after he spun while running in 6th place.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Ellis was in 6th and had a tow. Now, where was that on track, actually, that he had his issue? Because if he took a tow and is still in 16th, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah, well, that one of the turns that I can't pronounce, Joe, so that could be any portion between the start line and the finish line.
And we've got another car pitting. I didn't quite hear who it was. Oh, it sounds like Hearn has finally come in for his stop. He was one of the ones we were waiting for him to try and make his first stop. We believe his first stop in that Mercedes. And actually... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say one of those potential outliers.
Oh! Paulson crashes, and the significance of that is it was off of Jimbo Pfeiffer. Jimbo Pfeiffer was trying to, was lapping Stephen Paulson, and the two made contact. Pfeiffer's able to continue going without that much damage. And I have a feeling Paulson probably had to take a tow to the pits after that one.
He did indeed. Pfeiffer did take a hard knock to the right side of that BMW. Let's see if we can get a good close angle here. Take a look at that. If he has any damage.
Seeing just a hair, just a little bit, Joe. Not much, man. I know this about the BMW. That's another one. We talked about the McLaren being pretty durable. The BMW, I've never seen a faster torn up car than a BMW, to be honest with you.
Bit of a tank it is. And meanwhile, battle first. Oh, and do we have cars bump drafting on the Nürburgring? I wouldn't advise that usually, but they got away with it. That's Smitty, and who is that? Gary? Well, those are a brave couple of BMWs to attempt that. Anyways, I was about to say, we've got a little bit of time and an hour left on the clock, about an hour and 8. So let's go through the order real quick. Let's try and get as far down through the field before we have to jump away to a battle. You guys interrupt. Troy Schultz is still leading the way. He has taken his first stop. We're waiting for the second stops to start to kick off. James Wyckoff, he is in second, but he's quite a ways back, 20 seconds behind our leader. Jimbo Pfeiffer just had a bit of contact with a lapped car that continues on in third place. Fleischle started in second, slipped down to fourth, but has been consistently holding on to that place for quite a while. He's only got 2 seconds back to the fifth place car, Kyle Burney. And Fleischle has it off on screen. There we see. Not sure if he made contact with the wall. Did you guys see? No contact we're hearing. So.
Yeah, just a little off. He's back to it.
Behind Burney, we have Michael Lane, who's had a very nice race today. We said trying to climb his way back through the field, started 7th. He's in 6th now, so he's up 1 despite early problems. David Williams climbed through the field as well. He did not start high up. He is all the way up into 7th, trying to do what he can this season to see if he can claim that crown for a second time. Rob Gall, he is our 8th place car. Then you've got Brian Barnes. He's been having a fight for most of this race. No one around right now. He's about 5 seconds behind Gall. Then rounding out the top 10, Sean, we have Sam Boren.
All right, down to 11th, Bob Beltrami. Paul Slavonic in 12th. David Warner, 13th. Having a good run he is. Mark Jabitsky, 14th. Kyle Murphy in 15th. Stephen Ellis, 16th. Alan Hesbeck hanging on in 17th. So's Kyle Gary. He's hanging on in 18th. 19th, there's Smitty. He's making his way. And in 20th, Brett Trozen.
In 21st, it's Mike Taylor. He's about almost a minute ahead of David Baker. That's a huge gap, even though it's not even an eighth of this course. Carl Burke, he's run into so much trouble today, and yet he's still in 23rd position. Just goes to show you just got to keep the car on the track and keep going. Richard Hearn, he took his stop very late, and that slips him back into 24th. Then you've got Matt Gelder sitting in the 25th position, and Andy Kennedy sitting in 26th. A little bit behind him, it's Chris Pence. In fact, more than just a little bit, it's about 43 seconds back. Christopher Sherburne's in 28th, just about 6 seconds back from him. 29th, Mark Redeker. Rounding out the top 30, Sam, we've got Mike Franklin.
Yeah, now you're getting down to the cars who are on the tail end of a lead lap, and there you see them there. Windell in 31st, actually he's the last car on the lead lap. And then you see Freeboth in 32nd and Chris Beck in 33rd. Draylin in 34th place, followed by Calistro. And then we got Brian Bennett, Nick Hunt, and then you get to the drivers who are 2 laps back. We've got Barker. I'm getting a bit cross-eyed here, I apologise. Fournier in 39th and Pretus in 40th.
All right, I'll take Ray Partridge in 41st. He is still sitting in the pit. Chad Yoshitomi, he is in 42nd. Seth Albers, 43rd. Gary Nichols in 44th. Steve Paulson still sitting in the pit, getting that car repaired in 45th. Aaron Stowe still on track in 46th. 47th, Nicholas Harrison. 48th, Taft Baldwin. 49th, Adam Young in the pit for repair.
Oh, and Baldwin off. That car looks very damaged, but we should jump up to Kyle Burney in 5th place because he has caught up to the back of Fleischle. I think he was helped by the off that we saw on screen and has been challenging him. He's within a second as they work their way up to the Quiddelbacher Heights. Actually, no, they're just coming through the High Oaks now. Now they're heading towards Quiddelbacher Heights.
All right, guys, quick development on Michael Lane. He did come into the pits and got his second pit stop in, and he's back out.
Too early. I mean, he's still probably going to come out of here with the top 10, but the completion of lap 9, if he can only do another 7 laps or so, that won't get him to the end of this. And if he could do 8 laps, it might.
Possibly. We've seen a couple people do it. That seems a risky maneuver, though. There's no cautions for him to worry about to take that early stop. And let's go back to that battle for 4th, because Burney is now back up on him as they head down into the foxhole. Fleischle and the Black Machine in front of him, doing all he can to try and hold him back. At this point, I think all Fleischle has to do is try to keep from making a mistake. There's just not many opportunities in this portion of the lap.
Sometimes, Drew, when you went to school and you told your teacher that you did your homework, but then she gave you a quiz and it was obvious that you didn't, that's kind of what it looks like here up front. You can tell which drivers have done their homework and practice and know this course because of our top 7 racers, our top 6 drivers in the order right now. They all started in the top 8, so if you really wanted a chance for a decent finish at the front of the field today, you really had to do your homework and know your way around this course.
And that was Chris Beck that you saw pull completely off course to let this battle by. That was a good heads up by Beck. He's a lap down, obviously. And once again, the nature of the Nürburgring you can see as drivers accordion back and forth. Some are strong in certain corners, others are strong in other corners. It all depends on how many laps you've done and if you've figured out that line completely around the track or if there's some that you still haven't figured out.
Man, I love watching him get through that carousel. That is, it's a lot of fun. It's almost like one of the turns at Bristol. It's almost like going through 1 and 2. Maybe not quite as big, but it does remind you for just a second of being at a small oval track in one of the ends of the track there.
Probably a little bit bumpier than some of those, though, I think. One thing that I remember drivers complaining about, which I don't think iRacing will ever be able to accurately replicate, is they felt like the track really didn't have the rattle your teeth bit in that carousel, because if you watch real onboards, it is all over the place as you go over the concrete. Meanwhile, Fleischle coming up on more lap traffic. That's David Freeboth. Is he going to let him by? Yes, he does. Ooh, that's very tight. Oh, and contact! Contact with Kyle Burney. Completely rear ends him. I don't think Burney expected him to lift that much. I honestly don't blame Burney on that one. That happened so quick.
Yeah, and Freeboth, who had trouble early, a lap down, he's already taken the toe to the pit. Boy, that was unfortunate.
And just happened just a bit too early. I don't think he can pit this lap, get those repairs, and make it to the end of this race. It could be a gamble. If the car's handling alright and if the engine's not overheating, he might want to try and do one more lap and then come in and serve his pit stop at the end of lap 11.
Well, he's got another, 4 minutes until this lap is over, and that should give him about 50 some odd minutes left. So he could make it to the end from here.
But it's when the leader crosses the line.
This is true. He's going to have to hope for that.
The leader's race is going to be 2 hours and 24 minutes. The guy who finishes on the tail end of a lead lap, their race is going to be 2 hours and 32 minutes.
Well, it's... Oof. Yeah, that's a hard call. I don't know. I do think at this point, if I were him, I would take the risk, go get the free car if he's still got it, and get back out there. Well, we've been going for quite a while ourselves, so with about an hour left, we're going to take a very brief break, then we'll come back for the finish. Welcome back to the 2.4 hours of Nürburgring, sponsored by Volt Vapes. Troy Schultz is still our leaders here in round 4 of the Pacific Majors. On screen, you saw a pass. Brian Barnes finally able to get around Rob Gall. That was a long time coming. We also saw a wreck happen, though, Sam, who was out after an hour and 24 minutes that we've had.
Yeah, it was a driver running in 11th position.
Is it Kyle Murphy?
I believe that was it.
Yeah,
it was
Kyle Murphy.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, Joe, I got temporarily distracted here by the fact that there's a battle for second shaping up. It looks like Pfeiffer's been reeling in Wyckoff.
And that's with damage on his car. That's interesting. Did Wyckoff make a mistake somewhere, I wonder?
Well, their lap times last time around, Pfeiffer was 1.2 seconds quicker.
Interesting, which about a second around the ring is not a whole lot around here. Another driver that I expect, though, to start reeling in someone, David Williams. He's been fast all day, but Kyle Burney, remember before we went to break, he had serious front-end damage from running into the back of a lapped car. And Williams has chopped about 3 or 4 seconds off of him already. He's got about 53 minutes to try and pull him in and see if he can get to a top 5. Let's see if he can do it.
Yeah, I think Burney should come into the pits at the end of this lap. He obviously elected to stay out an extra lap. He had a gap behind him. I guess the handling's alright, the engine's not overheating. Come into the pits at the end of this lap, get that repaired, make it to the end.
Yeah, he's probably watching those gauges very closely, making sure that BMW does not get too hot. I'm sorry, the Mercedes doesn't get too hot.
So as he works his way up to the top of the hill, into the Style-Strecke, long right-hand turn.
Can't imagine this is a track where you want to be on the back section of a circuit and looking at your engine about to overheat. Because you're in for a little ride before you make it to a place where you can get that repaired. I can imagine it's also not a fun track to run out of fuel on. And that could pose an issue in the closing stages, and these GT races, when the drivers get competitive, they will try and put as little fuel in their cars as possible on their final pit stop.
Undoubtedly. Very curious to see who is going to coast to the line. Not exactly easy to do it. You'd have to sputter right out of Hohenrad if you get close at all. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to get to the end, I believe.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're coming uphill and through, a really tight exchange of turns right there. You better have a lot of momentum to carry it through there.
For those wondering, we're not missing too much of the rest of the field. Not really many battles happening here in the last hour, at least right now.
Well, there have been one shaping up for second we mentioned with James Wyckoff and Jimbo Pfeiffer. However, Mark Redeker, the lap to number 59 machine, his connection is going in and out, and he just appeared pretty much randomly in front of Jimbo Pfeiffer, and Pfeiffer had to back off, and that cost him a lot of time to Wyckoff.
Yeah, in fact, the gap right now is about 3 seconds. Now, interestingly, Kyle Burney, despite that damage, is only about 3 seconds behind Fleischle as well.
The leader is crabbing. Schultz is 20 miles an hour off the pace going down the back straight.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Now, he can come into the pits and get his free repair.
And he's got the space to do it. And he should be able to make it to the end. Oh, this happened, looks like, just out of the mini carousel.
Yeah.
Right towards the end of the lap.
You're absolutely right.
I'm sorry we can't get the replay, but go ahead, Sean.
No, I caught it, and he was coming right out of the mini carousel, and it got loose. It snapped around on him, and he hit the inside retaining. There's no runoff right there. He hits the inside retaining coil And man, that knocked that McLaren all the way out of shape.
And here's what's interesting. Wyckoff is also in. Pfeiffer continues on. So our 2 leaders have come in with about 50 minutes left, which we believe they should be able to make it to the end from there, even if they get an extra lap.
Well, Schultz still hanging on to that bastard there. The McLaren is clean. It's ready to go. He's just getting the fuel in the tires now. It looks like it might just be fuel. I haven't seen it go up on the jack yet for Troy Schultz.
Ooh, that's a risky move, I feel like. Not getting tires. Are you sure he's not getting tires? Remember, these GT3 cars have to get them separately, so he might still go up on the jacks. Meanwhile, Fleischle has been bumped up to second, but he has yet to make his final stop. We're looking at Williams in 6th, one of the TNT teammates.
Okay.
And one driver who hasn't pit was Kyle Burney, who you would have thought would have with that front end damage.
Very interesting. So it does look like all 3 TNT cars are pitting at the same time. Must be a team strategy call. Schultz is out. And actually, is that Barnes and Wyckoff in a bit of a battle there?
It is, absolutely.
Barnes has yet to pit, though. So the question is, does Wyckoff try and get involved in this, especially if he knows he's faster? Is it that important to get around, or does he risk the car?
Man, Barnes has been battling all day. He's been in one battle or another. What a great race for the number 4.
Guess it's been a bit of a barn burner.
Oh, you better bring those popsicles in then, because that's the popsicle BMW.
Yeah, that bright blue car. Sandwich between TNT teammates, actually, it looks like. Oh, no, that's Tom Dreiling. Similar paint scheme. That is a lapped car, who obviously has just let them by. But here comes Wyckoff. Let's see what he can do. This is a good opportunity. But I don't think he's close enough to make a pass. He's going to have to wait for a mistake in the Nordschleife. Oh, but he's going to look anyways. And I think Barnes is letting him through. Barnes knows he's on an alternate strategy. Doesn't. Whoa! And he cuts the course. Wyckoff goes off, and the position goes right back to Barnes.
Huge for Jimbo Pfeiffer, because he's the one who he's racing right now.
Wow, and look at how close Wyckoff gets to that wall coming on in the Nordschleife. Yes, I'm assuming that Wyckoff got a slowdown penalty in there. So that's going to be probably about a 1.5 seconds lost.
Meanwhile, I don't think we mentioned, but Jason Fleischle also stayed out, so he's currently in 2nd place. It's currently Pfeiffer, Fleischle, Burney, but obviously they all have to pit again. Is Mark Redico been told he was off course, but I think it was just a couple of wheels?
He was actually letting Burney by. He's a lapped car, so Burney slipped on through. I think we're seeing a number of cars start to do that on the lap traffic, just take the car completely off track. And Rediker's having some connection issues, you can see in the background there.
Well, now it's Pfeiffer with the nice, comfortable lead. Even though he does still have to come in, I mean, he finds himself now almost 18 seconds in front of Fleischle.
Well, the good news is, guys, we only have about 5 laps to go. Bad news is 5 laps equals about 80 miles around here.
That's plenty of racing. Unfortunately, field's a little bit spread out right now, but I am curious to see what happens when Pfeiffer emerges from the pits. We'll probably have a battle on for 2nd. And of course, you've seen a lot of give and take all race long. These drivers have been racing the racetrack and not each other. That will change in the closing 10 minutes of this race, which is the final lap, but still, it will be worth looking forward to.
Well, and especially if we get a battle up towards the lead, and it's coming down the Dode Rojo, because that is an easy place to try and draft past someone. Question is, if you have a competitor close behind you, do you let them through before that long straight and then breeze on by?
You think
Wyckoff into the wall. Hard hit. This was down in DeFitz Valley. Unfortunately, we won't be able to show it, but he was trailing Barnes, and that's an easy place to do it, Sean. Down in that downhill braking zone with a curved braking zone on top of it. It is very tough.
Hard to hang on to the car, hard to keep it under control.
Let's get a nice close shot. How much damage does he have? It looks like he banged into it pretty hard.
Yeah, but it looks like he kept the damage to a minimum, to be honest with you, Joe.
Well, he's very lucky if that's the case. I think he might be losing a position when Bernie, let's see, was it Bernie or Fleischle who was catching? No, it was Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer who was catching him. I think Pfeiffer's going to jump him.
I don't think Pfeiffer jumped him by the point he ran off a Grand Prix course. I almost wonder if this could make Wyckoff bait for Fleischle. Perhaps Fleischle could get on the podium.
Well, Pfeiffer is actually dealing with lap traffic, so he's being slowed up as well. This is Franklin trying to let him through, and he squeaks on by. But a lot of time lost there.
Yeah.
Oh, did something happen to Bernie? I do not see him on my timing and scoring.
He's in the pit.
Oh, is this his scheduled? Is this his scheduled stop?
No, it definitely isn't. He was around the back portion of the course.
Oh, it was coming out of the carousel. It looks like the car slipped up wide and out of the banking, and he bumped it into the wall, not very hard. And then he took a tow. This is interesting. I guess that last little bump was.
Wyckoff is off the course, guys.
Once again, for the
course,
third time.
in the grass. He's in the grass. The car is barely moving, and he just took the tow.
Wow. 2 drivers who have been running in the top 5 all race long take a tow with
now,
pretty much 40 minutes left to go.
Now, did he hit anything though? I'm looking to see.
I think by the point you made 3 mistakes in 1 lap, your car's getting more beat up.
Yeah, he slipped out of the banking in the carousel. Unfortunately, he blinks out on my screen, so I can't see if he actually hit, but I'm assuming when he came out of the banking that he must have came into the Armco and the car was damaged enough he didn't feel safe continuing.
So, we're going to get a couple of new drivers in the top 5 here. Now,
and Pfeiffer, we see him on screen. Is he going to come in? No, he stays out yet another lap.
Yeah, he had to get around a lap car there, and that was a little dicey. He had to get around Mike Franklin. And I got to be honest, there was almost contact there.
Now, we've got Fleischle coming up to the pit entrance, and he goes on by as well. So, our top 2 have yet to make their second stop. Troy Schultz is in third. He's already made his second stop. He's about 50 seconds back from Fleischle. We don't expect Fleischle to be able to close that gap with the pit stop.
That'll be interesting if the top 2 drivers stay out to about lap 14 or something. I know you said, Sean, that they should take tyres, but if they want to fight for the win today, perhaps don't take tyres and try and hold off Schultz in the closing stages?
Well, I'll tell you what, it might not be a bad gamble. If you've been running kind of easy, taking care of it a little bit, yeah, why not roll the dice? The tires will probably hold up. But yeah, that's certainly going to be something to watch. But Pfeiffer and Fleischle in command right now, and actually them and Schultz are only the only cars on the lead lap.
No, I think that's because of the way timing and scoring is going right now. They're the only two drivers who have crossed the start-finish line to begin lap 13 here.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry. I was reading my timing and scoring app wrong there, but yeah, still a pretty good advantage. But they got to bring those machines in. We know that. It's a must. They will run out of fuel if they don't.
So all these drivers who have been racing from about 6th to 8th today, Joe, Rob Gull and David Williams, they could all be fighting for top 5 by the end of this.
Absolutely. They've been running great so far. Now, talking about your strategy that you brought up there, Sam, about not taking tires, maybe trying to hold off the leader, here's a thought. If you can get out in front and hold them off around the Nordschleife part of the track, would it be wise to try and do that and then let them by before the Dorino Ho and then slipstream by and take the win? I mean, is that a feasible strategy?
It's possible. It's not gonna... I mean, you could try it 100 times. It might work about 3.
Well, because if you're ahead of them, you're especially on older tires, I wouldn't think you'd stay ahead of them on that long straight unless you have a fair enough gap back to them.
I'm sorry, Chad Yoshitomi has spun around and he's trying to get back on the course without getting in the way of anyone.
And Schultz just had to get by. Ooh, that was close for Schultz.
Now, what section of track is this in? Oh, it looks like this is in Hudson Brook.
That's it. Yeah, it's in that an hour.
This guy hasn't gave up today. He's had a few incidents.
I believe this is in Hudson Brook, actually. Adenauer Forest is a little ways up the road.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I have my eyes trained on the wrong spot. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly where it was. But yeah, Schultz had to just get by him. It was close.
And he banged into the barrier a number of times, trying to get that thing turned around. I'm watching it now.
I think he was punishing his car, Joe. He's like, it doesn't handle well. I'll do a 3-point turn into the wall, see if that fixes the toe.
Yeah, bang in all the sides, and maybe they'll all behave off, and it'll work. It will work better again.
It worked for me in the Star Master race at Phoenix once.
Oh wow! Look at that car. It's not. I am impressed that it is still going. That Audi.
That wing has an interesting...
That's not regulation, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to fit the template, no.
All right. Well, for those wondering, Jimbo Pfeiffer is still leading, but he has yet to make his second stop. Same thing with Jason Fleischle in second place. Troy Schultz currently in third place, but he has made his second stop. He's been running well, but as we've seen, everything can change in a hurry around this track. He still has to finish the race and stay ahead with the whole car. Brian Barnes also yet to make his second stop. He's worked his way up to fourth. It's been a nice race, a very hectic race with a lot of battles for Brian Barnes. Rob Gall rounds out the top 5. He has also made his second stop, so he is looking very good.
And Sean, I've got to ask about Michael Lane, who's in 8th place right now, and he has pit twice. But we've been talking about, can he make it to the end without pitting? How can you play with the fuel on these machines to try and make it to the end? Try and get an extra lap, which I know it's hard to do around here.
Well, I mean, you can adjust the fuel map on them and either use more or less for power or for speed and or to conserve. Now, I tell you what, if Lane is doing that right now and he's got the map turned up high and he is conserving, I mean, I guess there's a chance. He's about 6 seconds off of David Williams right now, but I don't know. He's looking at maybe a top 5 if he rolls the dice, and everybody in front of. If he's hoping for everyone in front of him to make a mistake, then it's a good gamble. You know what I mean?
Meanwhile, in 20th, Richie Hearn just overtook Mike Taylor. That was for position. In fact, for 19th position, it looks like, as they go by the lap traffic of Nicholas Hunt. actually Hunt heads in to his pit stall for his second stop of the day. So as we wait for Pfeiffer to take his second stop to start to see how things shape up, let's bring in James Wyckoff, whose day unfortunately ended a little bit early. Get an idea of what it's like actually out on track and having to race in all this traffic and battle with other cars around the infamous Nordschleife. James, we're sorry that you're talking to us a little bit early, but tell us what happened at the end there.
Something was feeling off in the middle to end of the second stint, and I was having a lot of troubles. And then I took my pit stop and took fast repair, and I basically had no brake pedal. And the calibration, when I reset, showed that I had brake pedal, but in the car I had none. So I retired instead of being a danger.
That was an admirable call on your part, although I'm sure it was very heartbreaking on your end to have to do it. Tell us a little bit about what it's like trying to weave through traffic out there and deal with lap cars as well as battling on track. What is the experience like?
Oh, it's definitely hectic. There really isn't a good place except on the straights to pass. And when you catch traffic in one of the twisty bits, I have the chat muted and the on-screen chat turned off, so if somebody says to go one way or do whatever, I can't see that, so I just try to read what they're doing and do the opposite. And
sorry, we've got a wreck.
Trozine was chasing Smitty, and he put it off in the grass and into the barrier.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I guess I need to be watching this.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit of action on our end as well. It's quite difficult to follow with a track this large and so many cars out there. Well, are you glad this is over? Do you want to see this back next season?
Yeah, I definitely want to see it back, but I'm ready for my vodka.
I don't blame you. Well, go relax, watch the broadcast because it's entertaining from our end at least, and commiserations until the next race, James.
Well, thank you. I want to have a shout out to TNT Racing for the awesome job everybody on the team does. Troy Schultz and David Williams for their awesome job in helping me get my Audi set up. And our sponsors, Allenberg Racing Schools and GTR Simulator.
All right. Thanks for coming and talking to us. That was James Wyckoff, early retirement here in round 4 of the Pacific Majors. Meanwhile, on screen, Jason Fleischle has taken his second stop. Also, Kyle Burney in quite a battle. Oh, and that battle's breaking out. Bob Rami off the track. I think he got helped.
Yeah, and Bernie was chasing him, hunting him down. I was watching that battle, Joe, and then you picked it up.
And Beltrami's still stationary. Oh, he can't go anywhere. His car is high centered on the curb. I actually have never seen this in iRacing yet. And that's a dangerous spot. That car that went by nearly clipped him. He is trying desperately to see if he can do anything. Oh, and now he exits out.
Yep, has to get out of it. Wow.
If only he could have had a marshal lean over the Armco and just give that rear wing just a little bit of a push. So Bernie continues on. Yeah, and that's the second car we've seen Bernie rear end, actually.
The bull in the China shop?
I don't know. Bernie's a good driver. I think it was just circumstances, unfortunately.
We had the second one of our top 5 drivers down the pits that time around. Rob Gould also came into the pits.
And Ray Partridge is in an argument with somebody over the radio. Trying to figure out what is going on there. Let's see if we can take a look back and figure out what happened with Ray Partridge. Looks like
I'm sorry, Stephen Ellis, who was back up running in top 10, has gone for a spin. It's the second time today. And if he takes a tow, that'll be the second time he's taken a tow this race.
Yeah, and there he goes. He's into the pits now.
Boy, things they keep dropping like flies out of the top 10 here all of a sudden.
And this is what we expected pretty much. We said at the top of the show, attrition is going to be a factor. It's all about keeping your car on the track, keeping it whole. And the guys that we're seeing up front are the ones that have, save for Troy Schultz, who miraculously had a problem at the end of the lap and managed to bring it in to get his free repair.
Yeah, and you know, Joe, I mean, focus is so important. I don't see myself running this race. I can barely make a lap around and try and keep the focus to keep the car on track. And these guys, my hat's off to every one of them. What a tough ask, man, to go 2.5 hours right here.
Drivers will need to take their ADD medicine before they get out here. Got to keep that focus around this track. Every single corner is a potential chance to throw it away around here. Meanwhile, Kyle Gary is all over the back of Kyle Murphy. The battles of the Kyles. And I think it's going to change positions here soon as they come under duty to who?
Gary had been setting that up for a while, Joe. Yeah, you know, Gary, another one of those cars that's really been pretty consistent throughout the race. He's been charging hard and done a pretty good job of taking care of the car, running that Martini special. That's a classic.
A nice paint job and a nice little draft job up on by Kyle Murphy. That was for 13th position. Let's see if there's enough draft for Murphy to try and take him back. No, he's going to lift a little bit, give him some space up here into Tiergarten.
And top 10, less than a minute away. Maybe.
And 28 minutes left on the clock.
Well, we saw that Fleischle had emerged from the pits about 8 seconds behind the driver we think is going to win this race, Troy Schultz, which really leaves one bullet in the gun left is Jimbo Pfeiffer, who has yet to come into the pits. Now, he should pit at the end of this lap, but he's going through the carousel right now because he pitted on lap 7 and now it's lap 14, and 7 laps is about as far as these drivers can go. The thing that concerns me, Joe, about Schultz's mistake is he hasn't been pressured at all barring the first 5 laps or so of this race. And he made that mistake completely on his own, at least to our knowledge. There may have been a lap car involved. What's to say it couldn't happen again?
Well, definitely, and that's why we keep reiterating that you just don't know at this track what's going to happen. Every driver has to keep focused. And no, he was not under pressure. There was not a lapped car around when it happened. But to his credit, I really don't think you need pressure to make a mistake around this track. The best of the best around here, professional drivers even struggle. And none of these guys, as far as we know, are actual professional drivers out in the real world. So in the sim world, they're proving their mettle every single corner. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing many battles out on track at the moment. Murphy has been falling back from Gary.
Okay, what's Jimbo gonna do? I've got just over about 3.2 laps left in this race. What is Jimbo Pfeiffer gonna do? He is still on track.
He's coming up to the swallowtail at the moment, so he's towards the end of the lap.
He's gonna pit. I think he's got to pit for fuel. I think the big question, Sean, is does he take tyres?
It's about a 57-second gap between himself and Troy Schultz at the moment. Sean, you've called a lot of races from the box for Turn 2 Motorsports for these GT3 cars. What's the bogey usually on fuel and then tires?
Here it's going to be it's going to be just over a minute for fuel and tires.
So it'll be very close, even if he doesn't take tires.
Exactly.
I think Sam's call might be the way to go. The question is Jimbo Pfeiffer's team listening into the broadcast? Are they aware of what they could potentially pull here?
Well, there's only one person who knows if those tyres can hold up, and that's Jimbo. Does he feel that he has a car under him that even on old tyres, it could make it to the end? Because that's going to be the
Here he goes. Into his pit stall. Where is Troy Schultz now?
About
Schultz,
50 seconds behind.
Yeah. He just came off of Gallows Hill, and now it's foot to the floor for about a minute. Boy, it's a good thing they don't have it, the strain that these cars go under when these engines have to be at such a high revving point for so long, because I can imagine we'd see a lot of blown engines throughout this race with the way that these engines are strained on that straight. Go ahead.
Interesting point of note, Jimbo Pfeiffer just took a free repair. I didn't realise how much front end damage he had on that machine, but they really pulled out those fenders, and he's rolling, no tyres!
All right, taking the gamble, and Troy Schultz. Troy Schultz is heading onto the main straight now. Now, what is the gap going to be? Unfortunately, with timing and scoring, I don't think we're going to know for a bit. Pfeiffer heading out of the Yokohama S.
12 seconds.
Yeah. Just about 12 seconds. Now, what have the lap times been like between these guys? Is he... Let's see, we've got 23 minutes left, so we're looking at about 3 laps here. So he's going to have to be 4 seconds a lap faster?
Yeah, before those pit stops, Pfeiffer ran an 8:23, an 8:23, and then an 8:26 and an 8:26.
8:23 for Schultz, 8:21 in his last 2 whole laps. It's very close.
Brian Barnes having to bring it in, guys.
Barnes finally in for his final stop. He came in 4th. Where's David Williams? He actually might stay in 4th here. Williams, you can see on the long Darinahu.
I'm surprised Fleischle didn't try the strategy too.
You know, honestly, I don't think I could see Fleischle trying to go without tires. He really does not like this track. He hasn't felt comfortable. I think Fleischle is more interested in simply reaching the checkered flag today, it looks like.
Did Barnes just come in and come out of the pits from 4th position? That's a solid run by Barnes there. Obviously, it makes sense now you think about it because of the attrition of top 5 cars in the second half of its race. So, nice job there by Barnes.
Yeah, that was a short pit stop by Barnes.
So he doesn't seem to take tires either, it looks like.
No, sir, and short-fueled it to boot.
And he's got about 20 seconds over Williams, so he is looking very cozy in that spot if he can bring it home.
Boy, that's a mouthful. If.
Well, speaking of a big if, we were wondering about that gap. Already 2 seconds closer. Troy Schultz to Jimbo Pfeiffer. He's reeling him in.
Tell you what, a little bit further down the field, it's still the Kyle and Kyle show. Kyle Gary being chased by Kyle Murphy. It's a good one, guys. That's a battle for 13th place, but a good one. Now, Gary opened it up on him just a little bit for the moment, but Murphy seems to keep digging back every half lap or so. As soon as they set up for a draft, he'll pick back up to him, but that's going to be a battle for position here before the race is over.
Let's go to Troy Schultz because he is coming up on lap traffic, and this could affect how quickly he could catch Jimbo Pfeiffer. Heading down to the foxhole, that's Gary Nichols ahead of him, you can see in the blue Audi.
You know what I think is going to determine the race here, Joe, is how many laps are they going to have left? Because when they get around to the line, they'll have about 16 minutes left, which could be 2 laps. I think Pfeiffer could win. If it's 3 laps, I think it's Schultz.
And Nichols lets him on by. I think you could be right. If with the speed that he has, One more lap would give him that much more time to try and run him down. It's now down to about 9.5 seconds between Schultz and Pfeiffer. That was from 12 seconds when Jimbo came out of the pits.
And of course, how many drivers out in the field have just fueled up thinking it would be a 17-lap race?
And we're watching Troy Schultz right now. He is using all of the track. Just going all the way up onto the curbs, all the way to the grass. He is not going slow. He is pushing for this win. And that is, I'm impressed because it is dangerous to really push hard around this track. We've seen a number of guys just try to cruise around and looking like they're going to get good results. Troy Schultz is not content for that. Look at that, right up to the curb.
Especially this late on in the run, and considering the fact he hasn't really had reason to push all race long. If he's changing his approach in these closing laps, he could be opening himself to mistakes.
Guys, Brett Trozen, Smitty, Michael Smith in the pit. That's going to get Gary and Murphy, that battle I was watching them slot up to 11th and 12th.
While we're watching Gary right now, behind 10th of Mark Jubinski, although he's got a ways to go to him, about 37 seconds. And just behind is Kyle Murphy, still battling away, trying to hold on. Less than 2 seconds between those two.
Let's give a...
Whoa! Big mistake from Murphy. Slides off with that Audi, didn't hit anything, grabs a lot of gravel on the under tray and continues on.
Yeah, his car was underweight, so he just needed to add some weight to his car in the under tray there. Let's give a shout out to Michael Lane. I'm still not sure if he'll be able to make a race without pitting, but he's in 6th right now. So it'll be interesting to see if he does pit again, how far back that will drop him.
Well, I mean, he's 11 seconds off of David Williams.
And what a race has this been for Williams. He is in 5th now. He has finished his last stop. He's ready to go to the end. Started in 31st. That is just incredible. He was 7th in practice, so I'm assuming he simply couldn't get a good enough lap time in qualifying because he's been fast. Or maybe he just elected to start from the pits. I can't remember if he was one of those cars.
Well, if he started 31st, that means he qualified 31st. I can't remember. I thought it was 31 cars turned a lap during qualifying, but it would make more sense that he was one of the drivers who didn't turn a lap, because of course we had 3 drivers who didn't make it into this session from the qualifying session.
There we see Williams working his way through. He's got 16 seconds up to Brian Barnes. He still could yet gain another position. Not sure what his lap times are like compared to Barnes. Let's take a look. 8:26 for Williams, 8:24 in his last 2 laps. Brian Barnes, 8:35, 8:29, 8:27.
The Nürburgring, where you can say with 2 laps to go that you can get the guy 16 seconds in front of you.
And Williams is weaving his way through traffic. He just overtook Nicholas Hunt, and he's going to have to get past Ray Fournier. Is Fournier going to pull over and let him through? Is he going to hold him up? So far, he's not looking like he's going to try and pull wide, but he spins out of the way, thankfully. Hard hit for Fournier. That could be race over for the car in 27th place. Yeah, he is taking a tow.
How many times do you talk about it? Just drive your line. Don't get wrapped up too much in that mirror. And man, what a tough break there. And man, how lucky was he?
I think this race is going to be on very soon. 6 seconds between Pfeiffer and Schultz. And that about splits it right in half. Remember, he was 12 when he came out.
Pfeiffer having trouble getting around a lap car.
That's
a lot of trouble
horrible.
getting around Seth Alpers.
That's all horrible news, but the great news for Pfeiffer, he's crossing the start-finish line with 15.5 minutes to go. This should be a 17-minute race, but a 17-lap race. But yeah, you can see them both in the same camera right there.
Down to 3 seconds now. That hurt Jimbo Pfeiffer immensely.
It cost him 3 seconds. The speed that Schultz was able to get down that straightaway with an uninterrupted exit from that last chicane there, and man, he really made it up. Here comes Troy Schultz.
And here's where it gets interesting. I don't think he's going to catch him until the Nordschleife. So, I mean, he's probably going to have a chance because he's going to have a whole nother lap to try and get by. But how hard does he push? Does he wait until the long back stretch? Or does he try and harry him into a mistake and pass him somewhere on the Nordschleife section?
Oh, but Pfeiffer's tyres are dead now. They're dying exponentially. They begin a little bit dead, and then they just get deader and deader until there's nothing left.
His tires have ceased to be, would you say, Sam?
They've expired and gone to meet their maker.
So it's down to 2 seconds between Pfeiffer and Schultz, gaining on him as they come around the kink up into the chicane. It's been a 2-hour race so far, more than 2 hours, 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it comes down to this.
Pfeiffer says, can we just turn right and do 2 more laps of the 3P course?
Well, it's a timed race, so unfortunately that still wouldn't help him. Second and a half. Schultz is flying. Here we ride on board with Schultz, and you can see that speck up in the distance that has been growing closer and closer. That is Jimbo Pfeiffer's blue and orange BMW. Hold on this. Wow. And it's not over for Schultz. He lost about half a second there. He's still pushing. He is not sitting still on this one. Coming up to the fluke plots here soon. I wonder if Troy Schultz, with how he's been pushing, if he's burned his tires off.
It's a possibility. And it looks like they're really far apart now because they're in a really fast section of the racetrack, but there are only 2.5 seconds between them. There you see it on the bottom left of the screen there.
And that gap has gone back up. It's now 3 seconds. He's lost about 1.5 seconds in these last few corners. What has happened to Schultz?
Well, it could just be not his portion of the circuit. It seemed like Schultz really gained a lot of time at the end of the lap last time around.
Down through the technical section, out in the forest.
Lopez came down to this.
Yeah.
I mean,
couldn't have asked for more.
If there was no such thing as strategy, Schultz would have won it. But Pfeiffer has really played a good strategy card here.
Let's check away from this just for a second because we got a chance, because we do have a battle for 18th. Carl Burke. He's been very vocal on the radio earlier in the race. He's got Stephen Ellis close behind him. Ellis has had multiple problems throughout this race, and yet he is still in 19th.
I'm gonna warn you about Carl Burke here real quick. He's having connection issues, guys, and I think that could be a problem for Ellis trying to get around.
Is he going to pull over? He's going very slow. Ellis had to really back off. Well, that's... And this is really unusual. Usually, I think he was trying to let him through, but I think that Carl Burke actually doesn't have a place that he can let him through because his track is so thin. He is warping like crazy. Well, meanwhile, we've gone back up to Troy Schultz. He has gained about 1 second back. He's down to 2 seconds behind Pfeiffer as they come uphill through Kesselchen.
Schultz will gain here on the long straight, but now they're...
Oh, Barnes. Looks like Barnes had some trouble, guys. He's in the pit.
No. He was having such a fantastic race. This happened up into Oudener Forst, and unfortunately, the rear end of the car came around on him, and that fast left-hander that comes over a hill. That was the end of his day.
Yeah, he caught a little bit of the rumble strips, and it upset the car.
Look at that. Our race leader there wasn't on the banking in the carousel. I think that cost him a lot of time.
Oh, it did. He is now only half a second ahead, and they're coming up on lap traffic. How is this going to play out? Is he going to let them through? He's trying to, doesn't quite. And thankfully for Pfeiffer, he's going to cost Schultz just about the same amount of time. But Howard Wendell, he had to be sweating bullets seeing those guys coming up on him in a hard place to let people through.
Howard did a good job there, Joe.
Yeah, did pretty much the best he could in that situation. And unfortunately for Howard, he bends it in the wall, actually. And he's going to take a tow, I think? Yeah, because his car is stuck up on the wall. This is unusual. Yeah, there he goes. He's towed now. We didn't get to see it on screen, but his car somehow managed to straddle the Armco.
Seen a lot of straddling today out here, haven't we? Armco, curbs. Alright, as drivers, I think, will be getting the white flag this time by.
I believe you're correct with about just under 9 minutes left.
Yeah, and here's your Michael Lane update. He's still on the track, guys.
Yeah, he's in the top 5. It'll be interesting to see if because I think his last pit stop was lap 9, it'll be interesting to see if he is forced to make a stop at the start of a final lap.
As we continue to watch our leaders work through the swallowtail and now into the mini carousel, this could be it. If Schultz gets close enough, he could draft past, but he's starting to lose him, it looks like.
I think he will. I think he's close enough for the slipstream here. He should be able to get the round, but Pfeiffer's got to try and get him back going into the first turn in the DP portion of the course. And remember, these BMWs are not very good in a straight line either. Schultz starting to pull him in. It's down to 7/10, 6/10. He's got the draft. This is for the lead. After 2.5 hours, Troy Schultz was overtaken by strategy, and Jimbo Pfeiffer looks like he's going to lose it. How hard is he going to fight this? And he doesn't make any moves. He lets him on through the kink, tries to get in the slipstream, see if he can hold on to it. That's about Pfeiffer's only hope here as we start to get the white flag now. Fifth, the lead change in 16 laps. Not bad, actually.
Yeah. For a 2.5 hour race, that's a pretty good amount of lead chains, I'd say. So can Pfeiffer's tires hold on? Can he try and stay with him to see if he can draft past before the end of this race?
Man, that's going to be a tough call, man. You're oh boy, I'll tell you what, Schultz a little wide on the exit.
Oh, very wide. Pfeiffer not able to do anything with it, though. I think he got squirrely on the exit as well.
Well, if Pfeiffer, at the beginning of the North Drive section, that's where we saw Pfeiffer pull away from Schultz last lap, but he can't make a pass there.
Well, all he has to do is hold on until the Dödinge Hohe, and then maybe he could slipstream by, but with how shot his tires are, I'm not sure if he can do that.
And look, Matt Gelder is the lap car ahead of him.
And you could see as we rode on board with Jimbo, big slide, loss of traction coming out of Dunlop. That cost him about 4/10. So for those curious as we watch this, Michael Lane is coming up to the pits soon.
Yeah, he's heading down Döttinger now.
So does he stay out? There you can see that Mercedes. Looking pretty good condition, really.
He's got 21 seconds over Robert Gull, you see there. That means if he did pit, he'd probably lose out on the top 5, but still come back with a solid finish here.
into Tiergarten. Slowing the car down. Series of S's that get progressively tighter. He's got a lapped car ahead. That's Mike Franklin. Is he going to stop into the pits? Does he think he can make it? No, he stays out. So Michael Lane is committed now.
That is a
Brave call. Meanwhile, Jimbo Pfeiffer is now dropped back to about a second and a half. He is losing Troy Schultz. Unless Schultz makes a mistake, I think this is Troy's race to lose.
Well, it looked like about lap 4 that it was Troy Schultz's race to lose, and he almost did at one point. Let's not forget the fact that had Schultz never made contact with that wall, he'd probably be about an additional 5 seconds up the road by now. But you've got to give Pfeiffer credit, even if he does finish second in this race, for trying to change it up. Another problem for Pfeiffer right now is there's really no lap traffic ahead of Schultz.
Yes, it's just these two until the end, we believe. Now, we've got about 4 minutes left on the clock. This should be the final lap. Schultz blinked a little bit for a second there, I thought, at my speed, at least.
It's not the first time, but it's never been too bad. He's done it a few times this race.
Blinking some more once again. Now,
why did we not see more drivers take to the McLaren, Sean?
You know, a bit of a head scratcher for me, Sam. I was a little surprised when I first came in this afternoon and saw that there were just so few of them. Hey, let's face it, there's some new cars out there. The Mercedes and the Audi are both new to the series.
Oh, sorry, big mistake from Troy Schultz. He's into the wall. Down into Defense Valley. I don't think he hit it hard enough, and Jimbo Pfeiffer's not been able to close in for a pass. He's within half a second, though.
He's within drafting, and he overshoots it!
Oh! The excitement got to both of them. Both have glanced the wall down. Both continue on. They've got 30 seconds over Jason Fleischle. It's going to have to take something catastrophic for these two to lose first and second. Wow. And the worm turns.
Yes, it does. With about a half a lap to go.
Where Pfeiffer made his mistake last lap or 2 laps ago. No, it's not. I've got the wrong part of the track. The carousel is where I was thinking of.
That's coming up.
Yeah, it's where Pfeiffer overshot it and missed out on all that banking a little while ago. And even though those were 2 different incidents at what we just saw, they were both caused by the same thing, basically the driver overshooting the corner. The tyres are more shot than they ever have been for both drivers this race.
And as they went through Bravery Corner, that name earned it for Troy Schultz, because remember, he hit the right side, and with that left-hand corner, he had to have supreme confidence that the car wasn't damaged enough that he would slip off the track through there. Oh, and speaking of slipping off, there goes Jimbo Pfeiffer out of the banking once more. He's up to 2.5 seconds behind Schultz now.
I think those tires are really starting to fall off, Joe. It's pretty obvious.
Still, we don't know if something's going to happen to Schultz. Once again, he slipped off once. Pfeiffer has now slipped off twice. How is Schultz's car? Is
it's
the
wobbling.
I was going to say, it's one of the things about the McLaren you have to watch out for. It's got those skinny front tires on it, and they can go away on you at any second.
Something we haven't really talked about here either that our viewers need to understand about this series is these drivers, especially that are higher up in the championship points, the Pacific Majors drives all different kinds of cars at all different types of tracks. They have ovals, they have the Nürburgring, they have Sebring, obviously, they have the Indianapolis 500. They have short tracks even. They're going to race the modifieds this year. You need to be a good driver in lots of different cars. And we're seeing some of the best GT3 drivers out there today racing around one of the most difficult tracks in the world. And that's what is so impressive about this battle, that it's come down to this after 2.5 hours. And we've got more lap traffic ahead of Troy Schultz. It's David Baker pulling off the track, letting him through. He lets Jimbo Pfeiffer through.
Oh, Pfeiffer got loose going into the mini carousel there, but here's where he binned it earlier. This right-hander.
There you can see the white flag on screen. Yeah, as Troy Schultz heads on to the long back straight. It's a good question. Do these guys have enough? It's about 1.8 seconds between Schultz and Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer not close enough to grab that draft. Still, there's one more section of S's to go. Schultz has to get it right. He can't throw it away yet. Through the kink. Now up to Tiergarten. Through the left and through the right. You get onto the brakes here. Slowing down for Huanrong. Hugs the curb nicely. Last corner, right up to the wall. He executes perfectly. Troy Schultz, we were wondering if he was going to win it, but he's going to take it home today after 2.4 hours around the ring.
Great drive for Schultz today. Flexing the muscle of the McLaren. Going to have some of these guys thinking, second guessing their choice in car today.
Yeah, and, great drive by Pfeiffer to make those tires last and keep them within 2 seconds all the way until the line. So credit to Jimbo. Fleischle, though, podium finish for a driver who complained a lot about having to race this track. Boy, I think he proved he's pretty good at this track anyways, even if it's not his favorite. So Jason Fleischle is going to take third as he crosses the line and weaves in celebration. I think he's happy with that. Meanwhile, David Williams... Did David Williams overtake Michael Lane when we weren't looking? Or no, it was Barnes.
He's always been ahead, yeah.
Yeah, it was Barnes who he gained on.
Yeah, Lane still making his way around. We know the car is light on fuel.
He's got about 25 seconds back to Rob Gall. So Lane looking at the top 5.
I want to know where he stashed all the fuel at.
Man, some of the drivers in the chat post-race talking about how difficult this race was, sweating it out. This is one I feel like, even though it's sim racing, physically, I'm sure these guys are absolutely exhausted.
Let's give a shout out to the drivers who will round out the top 10. We'll probably see a few of them cross the line. Sam Bowen, Mark Drabinski and Kyle Gary that we really didn't get to mention a whole lot today.
Yeah, we have, about 6 more minutes of racing to go here. David Williams didn't make it on the podium. Started in 31st, but 4th place. Man, that is a hell of a run, and my hat is off to him. Michael Lane is coming up, and I think he's going to get this even if he runs out of fuel from here. Comes to the line in that Mercedes AMG. Michael Lane with a top 5 today.
Boy, strong run for that driver. Decides to bring the car in for his first pit stop on the second lap.
He made it work. Stretched it, I think, just about to the limit of that car. Rob Gall, though, we're seeing him come home in 6th. Beautiful job by him.
Kyle Burney not far behind.
And Bernie has to wonder what could have been after multiple mistakes. Still manages a 7th. No shame in a top 10. Sam Boren, little ways behind. We didn't see a whole lot of Sam Boren today.
I'm looking at the 9th place car of Mark Drabinski. Once Bowen crosses the line, Drabinski's car is all tore up. He's going to come home with a 9th place finish.
Yeah, we're watching Boren still. He's only just come around the kink, and now he's heading into Tiergarten for that riding shotgun machine. You can See the 8th position on his windscreen.
Oh, guys, something happened to Brett Trozine.
Something indeed. He's not on track. Oh, and it looks like it happened up in Stylstrecke. Just lost the car on his own. Yeah, he did. Oh, and he almost had Paul Slavonic get into him.
I think we could see a change for ninth here. Because Mark Drabinski, I don't know how recent this damage is, but you can see just how beat up his car is. Kyle Guerri was 7 seconds faster than him last lap around. He's a bit far back, but I'm wondering how slow Drabinski's going to go down the back straight here.
We're going to see now. Gary is reeling him in by a rate of knots.
Yeah, and right behind Guerri is Brian Barnes. He's going to come home with an 11th place finish.
There you can see them on the same straight. They can see them out the front window. Jabinski now down to 5 seconds, under 5 seconds for that 9th position. Hoping for a top 10, I'm sure. Through the kink, now up to Tiergarten. I think he might be able to hold on to it. We'll see how his car handles through the S's. We don't know how bad this damage is.
Well, it looks bad. I mean, boy, have a car look like that and finish
I
ninth
think he's
place.
got it.
Well done, yeah.
Yeah. She ain't pretty, but she brought home a 9th. And Kyle Guerri rounds out the top 10. Oh, you got to feel for Brian Barnes after that late race error. Just outside the top 10 and 11th. Murphy, now they're starting to stream in. Murphy in 12th. Saw him battling all day with Kyle Guerri.
Well, I got to tell you what, Slavonic got to feel pretty good about the misfortune of Brett Trozine. Slavonic had been chasing him for laps, man. That chase had been on for about 3 or 4 laps, and Slavonic gonna take it away, and looks like that's gonna get him
I believe a 13th position.
Yeah, Trozine did not come back.
Next driver across the line in 14th will be Smithy.
And there he is across the line. Or no, excuse me. No, he's still got a long ways to go. I was looking at Nicholas Hunt. Now, who is our last car on the lead lap, actually? Sounds like Mike Taylor's going to be our last car, so we'll try and watch until he gets across the line. Then we're going to go to break. Smitty comes through the final series of S's. Had a lot of battles himself, but Smitty manages a 14th. And such is the distance between these cars. The next one, Richard Hearn, you can see is only coming onto the Dardiner Hoa straight right now. Thankfully, not far behind him is Taylor.
Yeah, we're watching now tail enders cross the finish line here, and race winners already getting mic'd up for interviews.
All right, here comes Mike Taylor, last car on the lead lap, the number 66. The Audi making its way up Dottinger.
They're still on. Oh, there. Now we switch to Mike Taylor, actually. Let's head to her and get his finish as he comes through these slow chicanes. Tall curves there. Definitely don't want to clout those and give things up at the end, but Richie Hearn keeps it clean, comes across for 15th. 16 cars on the lead lap. Mike Taylor is going to complete the race. We're going to go to break, probably a little bit of a short one since we got a lot of guys ready to go. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Nürburgring. There you can see one of the many little villages around this place. Long 15-mile, nearly 16-mile track, and 2.4 hours for this Volt Vape-sponsored race. Troy Schultz started on pole, and he didn't have it up at the front the whole race through, but he still finished on the pole, and he gave us a great battle with Jimbo Pfeiffer, who finished in second, started from fifth. He had a great run himself. Jason Fleischle, he finished in third. He lost one position, but I think he's happy with that third anyways. He was struggling in practice around here, but made good in the race. David Williams, what a race for him from 31st to 4th position. Michael Lane as well. He wrecked early on, had to take an early stop with only 2 laps on his belt. Still managed to come home in 5th. And Rob Gall, he finished in 6th place today. Unfortunately had a mistake late on that cost him what could be higher up. Kyle Burney as well had a bit of contact with other cars and with a wall. He finished in 7th. Then it's Sam Bourne in 8th, Mark Chabinski in 9th, and Kyle Gary rounds out the top 10. Sam?
And we'll go with me. Brian Barnes actually taking it home in 11th. Barnes having a really good run today. That was impressive. Kyle Murphy, 12th. Brett Trozine, little trouble there at the end, but he'll take that 13th spot. Paul Slavonic in 14th. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm off there. Slavonic at 13th. Trozine is moved down. Okay, there we go. So we got Brian Barnes in 11th. Kyle Murphy, 12th. Slavonic in 13th. Michael Smith in 14th. Good job, Smitty. Richard Hearn in 15th. Mike Taylor, 16th. Brett Trozine cycles down to 17th. There we go, guys. 18th for Stephen Ellis. And 19th, Andy Kennedy. And then Carl Burke with a shaky 20th. He was having some pretty serious connection issues there at the end, Joe.
Absolutely. So in 21st, we had Michael Franklin. We're getting into the drivers that had a lot of problems. Alan Hesbeck in 22nd, Chris Beck 23rd. Tom Draylene in 24th, David Baker in 25th. We saw him have problems late on as well. Chris Pence in 26th. Gary Nichols ran into plenty of problems himself, 27th. Brian Bennett in 28th. And Nicholas Hunt finished in 29th. And rounding out the top 30, Sean, was Bob Beltrami.
All right, and 31st. That's going to be Matt There we go. Ray Fournier in 31st. Matt Gelder, 32nd. Nicholas Harrison in 33rd. Seth Albers, 34th. Chad Barker in 35th. Mark Redeker, 36th. Ray Partridge, 37th. Howard Wendell, 38th. David Freeboff, 39th. And James Wyckoff, going to have to settle for 40th, man, after being up front.
In 41st, it was Chad Yoshitomi. Then it was Christopher Sherburne in 42nd, followed by Stephen Paulson in 43rd. 44th spot goes to Aaron Stowe, followed by David Warner in 45th. 46th was Lionel Callisto. Not a good finish for him. That'll hurt his championship hopes. Robert Pretis finished in 47th, with Taft Baldwin in 48th and Adam Young in 49th. Then in 50th, it was Blake Reynolds, Ryan Bird. Terrible race for him. He finished in 51st. And Jared Morgan, our last driver in the field. He finished in 52nd. We're going to talk to our winner and bring Troy Schultz in here. Talk to him about the last bit of that race. Troy, it was an excellent win. You gave us a great battle, but talk to us about when you saw that Jimbo had come out of the pits and had about a 12-second lead on you. Did you start to push, or were you running at the same pace you had before?
Oh, that was tough. It gave me something to concentrate on, so I put down a couple really good laps, and then he got blocked, and I got lucky.
Yeah, you got a little bit lucky, especially with that accident. Tell us what happened coming out of the mini carousel when you spun off a little bit and took some damage.
Yeah, I took my eye off the track for a split second up at the car that was just ahead of me, and I came right over the little lip exiting the asphalt part, and it just got me sideways. Nothing I could do at that point.
Well, as we've asked James a little bit earlier, and your teammate, who unfortunately had to exit the race earlier, are you looking forward to this track being back next season? Do you want it back, or are you glad to be done with today?
I am very glad to be done today. The micro stutters were really bad all race. It was, a couple corners I never could get a good time through. It's a good challenge for sure. Hopefully they make some improvements on the performance and it's not quite so bad next year.
And Sean, I believe you had a question about the McLaren.
Yeah, you know what? Just real quick, Troy, what went into your choice today? What went into your decision here to choose the McLaren?
Well, I actually early on a few weeks ago I drove each of the cars, and whether it was just the set I happened to start with was better than the rest, I was about 2 seconds faster in the McLaren than all the others. So I just decided to pick with one, focus on it, and see what I could do.
Well, I think you were only one of about 4 or 5 of them today. I think 4 is what we had total. And I'm a fan of the McLaren, and I certainly think your choice worked out very well, sir. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for everything you do.
That was our winner, Troy Schultz, today for the TNT Racing team. Did an awesome job and led quite a few laps, but not all of them today. So we were hoping to talk to Jimbo Pfeiffer. Unfortunately, we just got word that his microphone is not working. We wish you the best, Jimbo. Just know that you impressed us with that strategy call on that battle that you had for first. We'll try and get a chat with you someday later. In the meantime, we're going to go over to Sean, who has caught up with Jason Fleischle, our third-place finisher.
Jason, you put that car in second in qualifying, and you still finished on the podium. Great finish, great race. A lot of practice must have went into that. How you feeling?
Wrecked, exhausted, done, baked. Pick your favorite acronym or metaphor.
I talked a couple times during the race about the immense focus that it takes to conquer green hell. Did you find yourself at any point losing that focus?
Just a couple times. It's insane how much concentration that place takes. More, so it's like 10 times more than racing at any other track, even Spa. And it was compounded. I think a lot of people were dealing with stutters, micro stutters, in that session. I think iRacing was having some internet networking difficulties or whatever, and so I was definitely dealing with micro stutter. I did not have the smooth inputs that or the smooth display and screen that I had all week in practice and everything, and I got a little bit used to that, and it definitely hurt the lap times. And so I decided I wasn't going to fight anybody. If they were faster than me, then I would just let them go and switch up my strategy and try to double stint the tires on the last one. And I guess it paid off pretty good.
Well, talk to us about that, about the tires, okay? Because we talked about it a bit. Had those tires feel there in the last couple of laps?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't bad because I was babying them. As soon as I got that second set of tires on, I think my lap times dropped about 2 seconds because I was just, smooth on throttle, smooth under the braking, just hit my marks, baby them, and just try to take care of them, right from the beginning of the stint, and that paid off. So they held up pretty good from mid-burn all the way to the end.
Well, that is a good points day for you and a good points day for the West Division. Congratulations on a podium run here today at the old Nordschleife.
Dude, thanks, man. Yeah, I was racing myself and racing against the green hell. I wasn't racing anybody else, so I consider that a victory. Top 5 was my only goal, so yeah, happy.
Well, Joe, that was Jason Fleischle, and that was a pretty solid run he threw down there today. And I think we've caught up with Kyle Burney here real quick.
No, I think we're going to David Williams, actually. And
Okay.
Sam was going to talk to him about what probably felt like a victory as well with a top 5.
Yeah, David, congratulations on rallying your way through the field and getting the 4th place finisher.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I am exhausted. I think think Jason hit it on the head with just about every one of those acronyms that he used, or verbs, I should say, to express how exhausted it is. It's dude, I am baked. I'll use that one today. I am baked. That track, I have to say, man. He was talking about Spa. Dude, there's no track that even compares to this thing, man. You run in these laps and the car's jerking back and forth 170 times throughout the course of the lap, dude. It's hard, man. My wrists and arms literally hurt. Never happened before.
Yeah, I'm going to say a lot of drivers out there, well, everyone was racing the track out there. How did you race the track and other cars all the way through the field?
You know, honestly, I think I just got lucky more so than anything. What really happened was most of the guys that I made positions on they wrecked themselves out, unfortunately. So, I mean, I passed a few, don't get me wrong, but I would say probably 2/3 of the guys I made positions on just had issues themselves. So, I would like to take credit for it, but honestly, my pace was way off here. I just, I went out there and did the best I could in my TNT Audi and tried to represent the best I could for the GTR team and the TNTRacing.com team.
Well, you were 7th fastest in practice, but at the start of a race, we saw you starting at the back of a field. What led you to start at the back there?
I think when Mike started that new server, I didn't get my lap time in, my qual time in, until about 10 minutes before the server ended, our current server, or the qualifying session, I should say. And I think he just missed it. And I should have started, I think it was 13th, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere around there. And lo and behold, and to my shock, when I gridded and saw myself at 31st position, I was like, holy cow, this is going to hurt.
Well, congratulations on bringing it back in 4th place. Yeah, would you look forward to doing Nürburgring again in the future in this series?
If iRacing were to fix it where it doesn't stutter so much and have so many issues with the actual, just the experience, I guess is the best word to say. If they could fix that, man, I wouldn't mind, Samuel. But the way it is right now, I don't want to see this track ever again. It's horrible.
Well, it may be horrible, but it gave you a good finish today, and well earned, David. We look forward to talking to you again in the future.
All right, thanks, Samuel. And before I get out of here, I want to say a couple things. 4th place definitely feels like a win today for me, and come by and check us out at TNT-racing.com. And come over and see Mr. 2K himself, Philip LeBert, and the guys running the new FR 2.0 in the 2K series. Take care, guys. Thanks.
That was your 4th place finisher, David Williams, Joe.
Yeah, and we are going to talk to Kyle Burney in a second, but we did get some official word from Jimbo Pfeiffer. He was chatting to me through text behind the scenes. He said he was held up furiously by lap traffic, and it really changed the race. They could have pulled to the side anywhere along the back straight and let myself in first at the time and Troy by, but they clogged the final chicane and cost me about 4 to 5 seconds. But he was just happy to race. He got back last night, apparently from a week in Hawaii. Boy, that's a rude awakening going from Hawaii to here. He only had a couple hours to practice. He did say that Troy was the better driver with a faster car, and he had better tires at the end. He was pleased with it to only be a couple seconds back at the end of the race. So let's go to Kyle Burney, talk about how his race went with a 7th place finish. Unfortunately, Kyle ran into some trouble with lap traffic as well. He didn't get away without a scratch, unfortunately. Kyle, talk to us about that incident heading up the hill just before Stylestrecke.
That was frustrating, to say the least. I was following Fleischle, and I was kind of keeping it within 5 seconds, ebbs and flows of the track and everything. It gained and went back, but we were about a second and a half behind him. And I saw Fleischle go to the inside, and I was thinking that the lapper was just going to fall in behind and go through, and I would get him afterwards. But apparently he was either trying to let me through or something, and just kind of slammed on the brakes. And by the time I realized it, I had nowhere to go, and I just went right into the back of him.
Yeah, it's hard to react at those sort of speeds. But the other incident that we saw with you was coming out of the carousel that it looked like you just tapped the wall and then you exited out. Was it more damage than it looked like from outside the car? Did the engine get damaged in that touch?
No, actually, it was something that's even more frustrating than the first part. It wouldn't have been much damage. I've unfortunately had my fair share of spins on this track with this car, and it's a beast. It can take a pretty big hit and still go on. And the reason why I had to take a tow was because when I was trying to get back going again, I put it in reverse, went back, and tried to keep from hitting the wall behind me. But that caused me to high-side it on the curb, and I had no traction on the rear, so I had to take a tow.
So we didn't catch that part. We saw another car have a same problem of high centering the car on a curb and couldn't get away. So that's 3 cars in this whole race that have been unable to get away from that. So we are glad to get to talk to you. Sorry it couldn't have been higher up. Are you at least pleased with the 7th place considering the circumstances?
Yeah. Obviously, like, I'm listening to other guys talking, and obviously anything in a top 10 is good at this track. Top 5 is great. Personally, I love this track. I've had a lot of experience on this track racing in other leagues, and I like the tight and technical and everything sort of track, and it was good. My goal at the end there, when I finally got out of the pits, it was basically a 35-minute qualifying run trying to chase down 6th, and I think I closed the 35-second gap to just over a second, so if I had one more lap, I probably would have got him. But overall, 7th place was definitely good. It was higher than where I qualified, so that's a plus.
Yeah, I can imagine any positions gained by the end of this race feels like a sure hard-earned gain. So thanks for talking to us, and again, great job on that 7th. That was Kyle Burney's 7th place today in the 2.4 hours at Nürburgring. So after 3.5 hours on air, we are actually going to close up as well. We want to thank Volt Vapes, the official sponsor of this series. And of course, a big thanks to Mike Willett and all that he does to put on this race. I forgot to mention Jimbo also said that he wanted to give a huge shout out and thank Mike for all he did. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast. You can see those listed on your screen. Additional thanks to our musical contributors, Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, whose music you can also find at the websites listed. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Sean, Amjad, and of course Dougie Beard. Dougie had to put a few more cameras in it than usual here today. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. Next race, it's going to be the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte. Switch gears back to oval racing. It'll be Sunday, May 22nd, and it kicks off at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss that one. Another endurance race, big long endurance race, could go as long as 4 hours. We also have upcoming races for other series on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.